Well, look at that. I guess we're live now. Been a little while since doing a live stream. Howdy ho.
What's up?
Howdy ho, neighbor. Yes. So Angus wants to watch a little video here. Want to tell him
Well,
about this video here?
preface, we can do this because I can't stream on my channel. I was hoping to unleash the beef with you this week, finally, after a long hiatus. But good old they tube took down my my short that I'll re-upload on Twitter soon for hate speech. What it was like half of it was pictures of Hitler and or Nazis with Volkswagens because the context is Les Milano trying to insinuate Elon Musk is a white supremacist and that white supremacy is bad for business and industry. And it's like, well, also she was virtue signaling that she dropped her Tesla, swapped it out for a Volkswagen. That's the
A
context.
clearly more racist vehicle. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, a actually Nazi inspired product line.
Yeah, and now you can't stream for a week. Fiddlesticks.
Apparently it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Well, still, that 2 weeks. Jesus.
Yeah.
That's some BS right there.
Yeah. So that's irritating because I was just now starting to try to
Get a momentum on your channel, and now
But yeah, screw me. So yeah, everyone go. I'm in jeopardy of losing my monetization. So go just play my old stuff if you've already seen it, or it's old news you don't care. Whatever. Just if you want to help me out, because the whole point of trying to make money on my channel is to have another supplement to go towards my comic I'm trying to make. I've been trying to make. Finally, I think in a spot where I can start accruing money, have it by the end of the year to make the comic. So
when you say the end of the year, 2022 or 2023? Okay, yeah.
I'm shooting for Christmas 2023 to have a campaign. Hopefully, it'll actually be like September. I can campaign, but September, October. I'm shooting for that because I got enough time to accrue money, and also it's before Thanksgiving and Christmas and after back to school, so it's like a good window. The only big money thing is Halloween costume if you're going to do that, a party. So that's a good couple month window to plan around to buy a book. So
exactly. Speaking of planning, here's a video essay. That was a horrible transition.
I thought you were about to be like, speaking
Lately,
of planning,
some of you have been a little out of sorts. Erratic, unreliable, downright sloppy. Not you, Noir. You've been great.
Oh man, Star Wars is just a complete and utter mess.
Do you hear it all right?
Oh yeah. I hear. I'm just about to tweet this out.
Okay.
I don't know why you wouldn't have tweeted this
because Fallon is posting on the FC right now, and she'll take care of it. So
all right. I'll retweet. Continue.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So, preface too, we don't know if we're gonna agree with anything
I watched
or not.
I listened after Taco Bell. I listened like 2 minutes of this, and he says something that made me think of Christian Harloff. When he said, it's not that this guy said that, but it reminded me of Christian Harloff saying, I've been working my ass off as a Star Wars fan for 5 years.
52
and they
years.
want to, and you'll hear it. We'll point it out.
Well, all right. Let's see.
A long-time Star Wars fan who in the past 10 or so years has been absolutely obsessed with Star Wars, I have become increasingly unattached to the brand as a whole lately. The original trilogy and the prequels still remain as something to love and go back to when current Star Wars continues to let me down. And yes, I do like the prequels despite their problems.
Now this is pod racing.
That's not a problem. He's a fucking slave. He's a slave. He's been nowhere.
Yes.
All he's done is help Watto, C-3PO, go trade with the Jawas outside of town. That's all he does. He's a slave, and
I think he's more referring to what people would call his problems with it, because a lot of people.
Well, I think he shared that to infer that he has a problem with that, and it's like, screw you. But I really hate when people point to that like that's a huge flaw of the prequels. God, how could Lucas write a kid being like, what experience does he have? You know?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
like the older I get, the more I watch the prequels, the more I'm like, I don't get the nitpicks with this crap, or how this really bends you over backwards. Like it's the worst fucking thing in Star Wars.
Like it might just be hearing a kid go, "This is pod racing," is cringe to them, is what I'm guessing. But I don't know. It is a kid, but in the context of that, it's a kid though. It's like I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah.
Disney's reign over Star Wars is present, and I have never cared less about Star Wars than I do right now, which is a massive stretch to where I was when Disney's era of Star Wars began. Even the brilliance of Andor can't save my disdain for this franchise right now. Andor is a great show. It's slow and it's different, but it's a very good show nonetheless. But there are several reasons as to why Andor being so good has made me even more frustrated with this franchise. Now, I grew up watching the original trilogy, as I think most of us did, and it's sacred, it's great, we all love it. It wasn't until about 2012 or so.
Still things that could be, dissected though a little bit from it, I would say, from the OT. I'm saying that you could dissect from it. That's not, untouchable. Still some little things here and there.
That I really started to get into Star Wars hardcore, however, with Revenge of the Sith being the catalyst that catapulted my love for Star Wars. So
now
much
this,
so I became
this is a video. Now it's funny because he showed it, but then he's like, "Oh, Revenge of the Sith is like made me a fan and obsessed," and it's like, "Oh, okay, this already wins me over. This already gives me a template of like, here's a prequel guy," and so you got me on the plus side right now.
Got you
perceiving. I don't know where we're going, but
we shall see.
Created YouTube channels surrounding the IP. But now I am just so unmotivated to continue loving Star Wars. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't hate everything that Disney has done with Star Wars. There's been some good and there's been some bad. I'm not going to sit here for half an hour and bitch about how bad everything has been, because that's just not the case. Sometimes we get a golden nugget in a sea of shit.
I guess you specifically refer. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That scene would have been better if we take all the context out of the show. It's like this is a good little.
Yeah, it's like imagery, like that Reva scene, like that whole show is filmed amazingly. It looks good. Not that there's anything cool camera wise or like really groundbreaking. It's all just Tatooine and then a water planet that they did nothing with, But and then Boba Fett, a lot of good shots, some cool, fun stuff. I think the Tuscans was a good, interesting. Like I never really thought deep about the Tuscans. It's always just like a bad guy, outskirt of town. The Indians that are going to like rape and pillage you, and to add like, well, some of them act that way to essentially colonizers, and others, if they have a chance, might actually be good to you. Like it's case by case, not verbatim.
Others typically enslave you, leave you out to dry, and make you.
Well, that's the only real instance we've seen before was, Lucas showing them as like vagabonds or what have you, and so to show them with some range, I really like that. I thought that was a cool addition with Boba Fett, even if it was meant to be like a direct allegory to Indians and to try to change the perception. And because they're indigenous or whatever, the modern woke crap. But despite that, I think it's a cool template to play with and stuff like that that they've included in the lore. It's like it's a wrinkle in okay to bad content. Mandalorian is solid. It's not groundbreaking, but it gets the root of Star that you and me have talked about with like male things. It's a male show. It's about a man. He finds a son and he cares for him and he even breaks his own code to do so. And it's very endearing. And that's what Star is about. Lucas has said, like, it's about fathers and sons. It's about like, cosmic good and evil. Those are the core of Star Wars.
Yeah. I still haven't given Mandalorian that much of a chance yet, guys. So I only watched like 8 episodes.
Rey Skywalker.
The best moment.
Why Star Wars is a complete mess and how it got to that point, but it's also a love letter of sorts to a franchise that I used to love completely, but just don't anymore. So I intend to analyze this downfall from the very start. When Georgie Boy signed the papers over to Disney.
I love how I used the binocular scene to analyze. That is clever. I like it.
I just this I don't know.
Well, in pause. In one of the more recent Mahler streams, probably a month or so ago, or at least I watched a month or so ago, they were talking about it's a Marvel video they were breaking out, and it was about how it's a good video, but they hate how a lot of these scenes are distracting because they don't really match with what he's talking about. It's just
it's where they
stuff
just put
on the screen.
Random visuals are on the screen. Yeah, and it's not matching anything they're saying. So like,
this guy put effort in.
Is this what you mean, or what do you mean? Well, you're showing this. What? Yeah.
This is good.
Yeah.
Right now, today. So this is the tragic downfall of Star Wars, and
I just processed it. That was Andy Serkis.
I thought that's pretty funny. They used
him
like
watching it. I was like, "Hey, that guy's familiar." Oh, that's Andy Serkis. Huh. Took me a second. I was a little slow there.
Schmeagle's in Star Wars
has become a complete and utter mess.
I don't have ad blockers.
Mute the ads. Mute the ad.
I'm sorry, I don't have ad blockers on.
Skip. There we go.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
The line cringes me every time.
Sometimes my genius is it's almost frightening.
When George Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney in 2012, it marked a major shift for a relatively dormant franchise. Even though I liked Star Wars before this point, there wasn't really much going on. Not really any games, no films, no shows, nothing. But again, this marked a turning point where Star Wars was going to come back onto the big screen. There was going to be a ton of movies, shows, games, you name it. Star Wars was coming back in a big way.
Man, remember the promise of that shit, man? It was like Battlefront was coming, and then it was like I was expecting there to be like a game every 2 years or something. Like I was expecting a lot of stuff.
To play
like
Fallen Order. I played a little bit of it, and it's a fun being in Star Wars.
I'll try it out one of these days. It just, based on the look of it, it just didn't seem to catch my attention to care. But it might be cool. I just it didn't seem to be taken in a place where I wanted to explore. I was just like, that's fine.
Well, it's like Dark Souls. It's not as hard, but it's like Dark Souls. Like you are going to fail repeatedly getting through the mazes of each map. And it's set up where like if you're going to like recharge your life, it respawns people that you're going to like you've already beaten that you're going to have to like run back through. And so you got to make a choice like do I have enough life, or do I got to recharge and try to fight better? It gets frustrating, but it's fun.
Mm-hmm. What's up, Grandmaster? Says, so books and comics don't count? No, it's not that they don't count. I'm just saying I was
also hyped. The Clone Wars was still going on.
Yeah, I'm saying so I was hyped I was specifically looking forward to a bunch of video games coming out, which they didn't. If they put out a bunch of books and comics, that's cool and all, but it's not where my interest was. So it was whatever. And they seem to disregard a bunch of other books, which that's fine, I guess, if they're trying to make it clear where they are in their stories. But yeah, I don't know. You read some of the books and comics and stuff, right?
Oh, dude, yeah. Especially the old stuff, the Dark Horse era of Star Wars.
I'm saying that Disney put out.
Yeah, I just did the Yoda review, and it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun.
I guess I'm referring to after they acquired Star Wars, like within those few years after.
The Vader comic was cool. It still is good with Greg Pak right now. Kevin Scott is doing all right with the High Republic, although I think there's probably like Kathleen Kennedy mandates around that, so he's got to work around that too. But I think he's writing pretty well, despite that. And Shattered Empire was a cool little mini series to get into the sequels, but they did no connecting to that whatsoever. Not even Poe Dameron's mom works with Leia, and then there's never a connection of like, hey, Leia, remember my mom? Remember this? Like, there's nothing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But well, I'll say this: the comics, especially after Last Jedi, they did this like little series of like one shots, and they did like a Kylo comic. They did a Finn comic where they tried to show him as a janitor on Starkiller Base, and it's actually like for whatever reason they actually have mops as janitors on Starkiller Base with all their tech and droids, but then also being a janitor might mean, hey, there's like weird creatures in our sewer system. We got to go kill them, and people get like ripped in half and shit. So they try to make it cool. They tried to make up for Last Jedi, and they have like Kyle comic where it's like him and Snoke on Dagobah, and he like destroys the cave that Luke goes into because of something he sees with like his family. And it's cool despite the context, because it's like I appreciate them trying to write the story better after the fact. That's why I give Rise of Skywalker, like, I like it and I appreciate it because of all the things they had to try to overcome to get people back and to counter Last Jedi.
Curtis Wisely is in the chat. What's up, man? He says, well, not laser sweepers. Come on. With the laser bristles. Exactly. You know, like with their execution weapons. Exactly.
This was where my love for Star Wars reached a high point, because the sky was the limit. The hype was building for a new era of Star Wars content. And in my opinion, Disney's Star Wars actually started out really well. We had Star Wars Rebels begin airing in 2014, and it was pretty decent.
I'm mixed on Rebels. I liked some things and hated some shit.
There's some cool stuff.
Some things that I thought was cool concepts, and other things I was like, oh my god, eye roll.
Yeah, it's like they should have just stuck with playing into the fan base they built with Clone Wars, and not trying to like waffle on it and be like, all right, so adults watch this, but then we're Disney, so kids, but then also there's like roughly young high school age kids that grew up with Clone Wars, and so they need more mature. So it was just it's like The Hobbit. There's a lot of good, and then it's also like cringe because it's a kid's book.
Yeah. Exactly.
To this day, I'm not a big fan of the animation style of Rebels, but it's a pretty good show.
It's one of those, a lot of the animations with things, it just kind of grows on you. Or, you know, if you can get past the animation stuff, then it can be pretty good.
Well, I think it's indicative of the quality. Like, he had a cool, I think it's Gendry Tartarovsky, whatever, from Samurai Jack. He did the Clone Wars cartoon, and they just essentially 3D'd his style in the Clone Wars, and I really liked that. Like the stylization of the Clone Wars, the Saj, Dooku, everything. And instead of carrying it over, they just made it all soft and round and ugly and gay. Besides Vader, Vader's pretty cool because they use the McQuarrie concept art for his style.
Oh yes. We got Justin pretty proper over here.
Yes.
We just did a recording. We just did a recording a little bit ago that'll come out sometime this month. You guys will love that.
I'm trying to educate him proper. I'm trying.
Part of his 25 days of torture. But so proper for $5. Thank you, buddy. Says Superbad and Wolf of Wall Street are classics. Rookie is wrong. Superbad is the GOAT. Yeah.
Wait, I thought you liked Superbad. I thought you like it's not my favorite, but you.
Well, I said that. Well, that's what I was trying to tell him, that it's fine. Like I oddly enough, I'd rather watch Superbad over Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know. Like I liked like Wolf of Wall Street is good. Like it's a good film. I cannot say that there's like a whole bunch of flaws, but I just didn't enjoy it. And I'll be probably having videos on those one of these days. It depends on how much I feel like it, I guess.
What's your like ratio at right now? Because we got 7 people in chat. We need 7 or more likes. Hit that like button.
Yeah, they probably won't because I don't like Wolf of Wall Street. So that's a tough one, right?
But they're here for Star Wars. So
they're here for Star Wars, though. That's true.
We like Star Wars.
That's true. Yeah. Well, like some Star Wars.
Of course, we found out that Disney would be developing their own trilogy. We had the continuation of the Skywalker saga with Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Not only was this a big deal at the time, but The Force Awakens ended up being, in my opinion, actually a very solid reintroduction to Star Wars on the big screen, because whether we like to believe it or not today, the prequels back in 2015 weren't looked back on as fondly as they are right now. Back then, if you said you liked the prequels in public, the pitchforks were probably going to come out. But The Force Awakens not
They
only
still
proved
fucking come
Star
out.
Wars was back with shattering box office numbers, but it was critically adored and it shook off any bad taste people had with the prequels. Go back through many of your favorite
Oh my
YouTubers.
god, I hate these faces.
Soy face.
I don't like their excited, happy face. It's cool that they
hate it.
enjoyed the things, but it's like, oh my god, Star Wars, woo!
Oh man, looking back, man, how did I ever watch that dweeb Chris Stuckman? He sucks.
Many of us watched Chris Stuckman's takes on stuff, and then he's like, "Oh, it's all great. It's all great, great,
Yeah,
great,
no,
great." And
I
then
was
it's like,
I was a
oh,
diehard Stuckman until
Mm.
his last Jedi review, and then I woke up. Yeah, most people woke up with Campia and company, but I wasn't following. I was just following Stuckman and John's. I kind of fell away from John's, just because of doing my own thing. But I like John's.
Yeah, I'd say lately he's proven more that he's pretty good compared to these other ones in a way. But oh man, all right. Oh,
Oh,
I was
God.
like,
This is
I was
video.
like, I was like, oh, I got to go to the video again to do a tag because I thought I had to search thing open or something for a sec. But that's part of his video. Duh. Real quick. Oh, thank you once again, Justin. Appreciate that. Superbad has an A-list cast before they were all famous. Nothing to hate. Rookie, we shall marathon the other Scream films before the sixth one comes out. Yeah, he said the sixth one comes out in like March. I thought they just released the fifth one like this year, like a few months ago or some shit. But
David said.
David, let's see. Make thumbnails acting like you're taking a pecker in your mouth and you will go viral. Trust me. You're probably not wrong. I just, threw up a quickie.
Dude, your thumbnail is amazing. I love that one.
What, mine? Or
Your
his?
thumbnail.
My
With all your
thumbnail.
reaction faces.
Oh, with my reaction. Okay, I was like, what? Yeah, that's the one where I hate thumbnails. Definitely. Yeah, good luck, rookie. He said, yeah. I got you. I hear you.
Videos on The Force Awakens in 2015, and the praise for it was sky high. Many of them have the film in their top 5 films of the year. You wouldn't think it looking back at things today, but that was certainly the case back then. The Force Awakens was a success in every aspect.
I was very lukewarm about it. I was like, there was things in it that seemed good, but then other things that seemed awful at the time. I was very uneasy about it. I was like, this is weird. But I was intrigued though, and I was annoyed how they had things start with it being essentially reset with like, oh, Luke, he's away, and there's like no Jedi, and nobody knows about it. Like that stuff annoyed me. But I was like, I was like, you could technically still do something cool. So I was interested to see what they would do. But
I was all over the place. Like I saw it 4 times. Because I'm like, Star Wars is back, But I was like, this is like probably the second worst Star Wars. And then I'm like, this is probably like the second best Star Wars. And then, after the fact, all these years later, I'm like, it's okay. It's good. I enjoyed it. I can still watch it today despite knowing where it goes. It's like, this is. Yeah, no, he's making a great point. I've always said, like, I love the prequels. I've always been on Star Wars bandwagon. So I think there's just so much depth to it. But
that's where many of us were.
It was a good, like, because of Disney just acquiring it, pumping out a movie over 3 years, and the perception
it had potential.
The perception they come into of, well, everyone hates the prequels, but everyone agrees on the original trilogy. So let's like do everything we can to copy that.
It's just safer bet.
And you got to think Disney is most famous for buying Pixar, owning, that company, making solid original stuff, and making kiddie versions of fairy
dark
tales,
stories of
So
Pinocchio,
like that's what they do. They're not original creators, generally speaking. Like they done so much groundwork for film and entertainment, but they always play it safe and family friendly. And so it makes sense, especially at that point. They weren't, if you told people 10 years ago, hey, they're going to make a streaming platform to compete with Netflix, and they're going to put an R-rated Wolverine film and Deadpool, and they're going to buy part of Hulu and own majority share and make a Predator film. They're going to make Planet of the Apes sequels. Like, even what? No way.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy.
Also, fun fact: Disney made The Water Boy, because we were watching it the other day. It's made by Touchstone, which was Disney. So
yeah, that surprised the shit out of me.
I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, I was like, how can Disney have Adam Sandler in something that didn't seem like they mixed? But whatever. Curtis says, yeah, well hated after I realized there's no hidden messaging I'm missing. That just sucks. Like, I saw it twice because I felt like I missed something. Yeah, when I saw it in theaters, and then a few months later I saw it on DVD, and I was like, huh, maybe my mixed feelings about it are just I wasn't in the right mindset or something. So let me try it again. And I watched maybe 40 minutes of it, and I'm just like, I don't want to finish the movie.
I'm a Darksider, so my biggest annoyance with the film was like, oh, damn it, the good girl won. No, Kylo's so cool. And yeah, and then we all know where that went. Dude, it was 2 years of watching Urban Acolyte, Star Wars, all these theory videos of Star Wars, all the excitement. Like, I didn't even know that there was a contingent of people that like instantly hated what Disney did with The Force Awakens until Last Jedi, and then I watched bullshitters old content, and it's like, oh, and I can see it. I still don't agree. I'm like, it's fine. Sure, there's feminist subtext there with Rey and girl power and all that, but it was enjoyable, and we were wondering given the format of Star Wars, it's all about legacy and dynasty and pedigree. When you have a Force user superpowered out of nowhere, it's like, well, who's her parents? And that was the whole hook for the next movie. And so they had so much goodwill. That's what's so annoying. They had so much goodwill, so much good, soft groundwork, rebooting, getting everyone back on board. And now the next movie can be original and take some risks and develop our own era of Star Wars, and fuck.
Well, and what's annoying too now, like after watching House of Dragons and some Game of Thrones stuff, it's like, having Bloodline and Secession playing such a vital role into stories like that. Imagine if they had some kind of a story about, Bloodline, Secession in Star Wars with like, she's, maybe the bastard offspring of fucking some royal Jedi. I don't know. Like, you had something there where it's like, oh, and you're, got some dark blood in you, so that's part of why you're a bastard or something. Like,
yeah,
I don't
and
know.
proper. This is just how it grows. People think I'm Mexican. It just grows with my lip.
Yeah, in regards to your mustache, yep, right there. And the Grandmaster's bringing back a classic. Your Snoke theory sucks. The classic,
dude, that had me so intrigued back then. I'm like, oh my god, like everyone's video is wrong. Like, what is the twist with Snoke? And it's like nothing.
So some people were like, maybe Snoke is actually a giant, as he is, and maybe he's not just projecting a vision. He's actually a huge giant. I was like, dude, that'd be sick. Nope.
Well, yeah, no, that was why. I don't know why they undercut their own Wizard of Oz reveal there when it's like they're talking to Snoke. You're like, oh my, what the fuck is that thing? It's giant, and it's like projection. Like,
he's just a little boy. Just a little boy.
No. Like, it's one thing when you
Like
see the
Bob the
Emperor
Bird.
in episode 5, and it's like, okay, it's just his head. Like, clearly he's just a guy. But then
And the reveal of the Emperor wasn't meant to be super grand anyway. It was.
That's the thing, is like so many things. It's like, all right, they did this in the original trilogy. And you're just kind of running with it. But then you are hearkening back to it without any, like, it's like the whole making illusions like I got a bad feeling about this. And it's like that was just a line and it became iconic. But when you have it repeat without context of like, oh well, like I knew this guy and he'd say that, and now I'm saying it. Oh wow. But like there's no connection there. It's just they said the thing we know, but it's meta, but there's no relation between
it's
the
almost
characters.
just like, I'll be back. It's like, hey, look, he'll say I'll be back again. And it's like, well, no, but when he's you don't just say lines again. It's not that's not the point. YMS does a great job explaining that kind of thing in his Lion King video when they say the same lines or sing the same tune, but it's like completely like they're removing the like reason as to why that happened. It makes less sense. What's up, Rob? What's up, everything Star Wars? What's up? Like the stream, save the dream. Appreciate that, buddy. Good seeing you around. Good seeing
Dude,
everybody back.
you know what's
again.
funny about that, Rob? Failure's the greatest teacher. Disney's learning that lesson.
They failed so much they become professional failers, and now they're learning.
Now they're scared to fail at the box office.
They might start being good at some point again. Because
that's the thing is failed. Like I want, I'm not brand man, but used to be. I saw Disney makes product. I'm like, ooh, I'm interested because they got goodwill, and that was a name you could bank on for entertainment. You could take your kids to. They weren't trying to meddle with your politics, at least not in the open, and so on and so forth. And now it's like, oh god, Disney's making something like The Predator. You're like, oh no, they got a Predator with a woman lead and she's Indian. This is going to be super woke. And then surprisingly, very tame.
Do you guys prefer the stream looking like this with us on the side or on the bottom corner? I like it
probably on the side just so they can see the full picture.
Mind. Yeah, never mind. I just looked at it for a second. I'm like, fuck that. Never mind. We're sticking with it. We're sticking with it like it is.
But critically done well, it reinvigorated a dormant franchise and it made a shit ton of money in the process. The Force Awakens reintroduced us to Star Wars, something that felt familiar with a unique new generation of characters, a mysterious protagonist on a sand planet, an ace pilot, a defected stormtrooper.
So much potential. Just seeing the imagery of the potential again.
And a villain that was genuinely compelling. Was it similar to A New Hope?
Yep.
But that was kind of the point. It was a film made to ease fans back into the biggest franchise in cinematic history 10 years after the last film had came out, that being Revenge of the Sith. Now, the sequel trilogy had some big upsides to it originally. Kylo Ren stands as my favorite character in the sequels, the reason being he was never going to be as good of a villain as Darth Vader. The comparisons would always be drawn between the two. You can't top Darth Vader. We all know it, and Disney knew it too. That's why they made the very crux of his character his failure to live up to Vader, his grandfather. This was probably the smartest thing Disney ever did with this trilogy. Kylo could never live up to Vader, and we as fans knew it, so making the character have that very same dilemma was a brilliant angle for them to pursue. As for Rey, now...
what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean... we didn't really know who Driver was. I mean, there was fans of that show Girls, whatever, I think on HBO. I'll probably watch that somewhat because I love Adam Driver as an actor. And he's surprisingly, you never really hear about actors getting in Star Wars and then doing great afterwards, besides like Harrison Ford. And Adam Driver is really taken off after Star Wars. He's proven his worth outside of just wearing a mask and having a lightsaber.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
So yeah, they found a gem right there, and I think he is the most compelling part of the sequel trilogy. He was the only interesting hook going into Rise of Skywalker, and it's like, well, I guess I'm excited to see what Adam Driver can do, but I had no like, whoa, what are they going to do?
Yeah,
the trailers were great though. I felt like, wait, they're getting me back on board. Wow,
the trailers were decent for the most part.
But no, like despite that, him being probably the best consistent part of the sequel trilogy, it's still like it's so wonky.
Well, I'd say, like the way I'd phrase it is he's the least worst probably. Like meaning it's not so great, but it's it's not as shitty as the other stuff. It could have been pretty good again, potential wise.
Rey actually, I really liked Rey in Rise of Skywalker. It seemed like they toned down the Mary Sue element of her and made her endearing, and like she felt like a good actress and pleasant. She didn't feel like Captain Marvel like in Last Jedi. So I hope she's got a good career after this.
Yeah. I do kind of agree with Grandmaster here. He says trademark Jar Jar Abrams emphasize the meta over actual story. Like, having it, be that he cannot live up to Vader. It's like, it's kind of eye rolly to me with the, we know that he can't live up, the fans can't, and he's going to do this type of thing.
It's such a defeatist attitude.
Because of a meta. Well,
Like, if anything, I would be like, I'm going to try to make the guy better than Vader.
that's what I'm saying. It's like the point shouldn't be to just have Vader as a yardstick.
Throw your hands up, like, oh, we can't match it, so just whatever.
Well, it's like you don't need to have your villain compare to Vader at all. Like, you don't need to go, well, there was Vader, so now we need to compare to Vader specifically. Like,
that's annoying too. Is like this whole trilogy tried to be like, it doesn't matter what your past was, or
let's
who your
compare
parents
everything
were.
to the past, though.
But yeah, that especially with Kylo, and it's like the whole thing about him is trying to live up to his grandfather, who is a badass Jedi who turned bad and became a badass Sith Lord.
Exactly, and I mean, freaking Dooku. So much potential that we could have had with him. He was great for the little bit he was in, and I'll admit that Angus got me to watch the Tales of the Jedi, a few stories with him in it. Not bad. Dooku, the Dooku shit was pretty good. Indeed. What do you say? The pugs? The porgs. Oh yeah, the porgs. I thought the porgs were the best. Well,
I did think it was funny when they're like stomping on the lightsaber, like what's in there?
And I wanted Chewie to eat them in front of the screen and make a bloody mess of their little bodies. That would have been.
Oh, dude, yeah. I was hoping he would like, there's the sad pork. Like, you're really eating my cousin? It's like he already cooked him. Like, why are you gonna waste the meat?
Yeah, he's dead meat. Just eat him. Eat the thing.
It's a bigger insult to not eat the dead flesh.
Now you've wasted what you killed. Like, that's
he died for nothing.
That's dishonoring them entirely. Right here, yeah, there are no great villains in Star Wars who are nothing. Wait, there are so great villains in Star Wars who are nothing like Vader. Exactly. I can even say so many great villains. Yeah, exactly.
Tarkin. He's just a guy that worked up the ranks, and the little bit we got of him, it's like Vader listens to that dude.
Yeah, well, and it's like with Sidious, it wasn't like, wow, we need to see how cool he is. It was just the fact that Vader deferred to yet another person. It was like, wow, okay, so Vader seems like he would be top shit, but no, he's the guy that's going to go to the front lines and do the shit, and then you got somebody else who can oversee other stuff, which makes sense. But
yeah, right. I'm at the point I'm super excited about Mandalorian. I am cautious about Ahsoka, and Andor is just, there's no attraction to me. Like, as soon as I saw a trailer and all the diversity in the Empire, I'm like, oh, they're all going to be good guys who turn away from their bad ways because they're minorities and women. And apparently that is what happens. It's not going to keep me from the show, but it's just, there's no, that's the only thing I got from the trailer. And I haven't heard any impactful buzz or, whoa, this really adds an element to Star Wars. I've heard nothing. I just heard it's a good shot show that's boring. And I like slow burns, but I'll get to it when I have nothing else to watch.
Curtis is nice. He says that Chewie should have given them some. Given the pork some pork. That's great.
I know a lot of people really hate this character, but in The Force Awakens itself, I think Rey is actually fine. She fell off the rails as the trilogy went along because they had no idea what to do with her and how to explain the setup and groundwork they put into the character in The Force Awakens.
I mean, honestly, everything up until her fight with Kylo, I thought was pretty good with her for the most part in Force Awakens.
Yeah, like even the Falcon scene with Han Solo is like, what'd you do? And she's like, oh, I bypassed this and that. And he's just like, huh. Like,
I mean, I kind of, if it were me, I'd kind of tweak that a little bit. So whatever she does, at least isn't as, I don't know. Did I bypass the compressor? I don't know.
Like there's a good energy. Her and Finn. I'm surprised there's not more shipping of her and Finn because
they want Finn to belong to Poe. That's why.
Well, I know the shippers do, but I'm saying like in the movie they made it. There's such chemistry that seems obvious between them.
Well, they made it where Finn is obsessed with her, but not her caring to him really. But.
Well, yeah, she's distracted with like she's got a big, life. Like her whole existence we get is I do this shit. I'm trying to make enough money so I can get the fuck off this planet and try to find my parents, or they're gonna come. I'm stuck here because I'm waiting for them to come back, and that's like the lie she's been living. to give her motivation, and she's dreading what she could become, like that old lady scrubbing the debris.
Well, and that was all without dialogue and stuff.
Yeah, that was really good.
That was the best part of the movie, I think, was showing her character before she speaks even one line. That was all pretty good.
That's great intro for her and Kylo. I did like the humor, although it's like it's in Star Wars, so like there's people that go like with like voice modulators and they speak alien and they're like, oh yeah, and like they have characters translate through the dialogue back and forth for the audience, and so it's a dumb joke because there's stormtroopers that talk with modulators on their helmets, so but it was like, it's funny for the moment, even though contextually it's kind of stupid. But yeah, great interest for all of them, especially Finn. I really liked it until she beats Kylo. But then there's the hook of like, well, how's she so powerful to beat a trained, essentially Sith master? And
I like Grandmaster says, I bypassed the hero's journey.
That's good.
That's a good one. I like that one. And everybody's putting in Ray. Whenever I think of Finn, that's attached to him instantly in my head now. Is Finn going Ray? It's not even anything else. It's like he's just
I agree that she wasn't necessarily liking him back, but it's because she's so distracted with all these new experiences and journey. But it felt like there was a chemistry.
They could have integrated their story
when he finds her and then he just like hugs her and he's like, and like, I got you back. And it's like, it's not that I'm a shiver, but it's like it just seemed natural that like she'd wake up and be like, oh yeah, Finn like did all this, and like there's things to do with that. And then of course they shifted to the Kylo shit.
He left the bad guys. He did all this while she's trying to fight. I think that I can save Kylo. It's like he got Finn. Anyway.
The same goes for Finn. Finn was one of the more interesting characters in The Force Awakens, a defected stormtrooper running from the fight that gets pulled into the Resistance to help save a friend. It's a great start. Again, same as Rey, it went nowhere. No wonder John Boyega was so pissed off with Disney.
Yeah, man.
So The Force Awakens was a great...
damn, it's right onto my tongue with that something about Finn. Oh yeah, it's like, a stormtrooper defects, and it's like that really irritates me. Like I didn't think about it for the longest time until probably Last Jedi, but it's like, wait, so the backstory they give him in Force Awakens is like, well, I was a janitor on Starkiller base, so I know how to like sneak in.
But I was also a janitor on Supremacy.
And that too. And then it turns out like, wait, somehow with like the number 2 baddie doing a Black Ops mission, search and destroy, like Vietnam shit, the janitor's on the crew. Like, what? It's that is really irritating because it's like, there's different jobs in the military, and no, unless it's like, hey, we have no one, we're stuck here and we gotta like exfil our base to get back to like our guys somewhere. You're never just gonna like have the cook strapped and on a mission, especially a seek and destroy. Like they should have had like special forces stormtroopers, but they're trying to emulate the opening of New Hope and also have a main character in that as a lowly stormtrooper. And it's just, man, they really didn't think that out.
Well, and he was just fully willing to kill all of his brethren that he thinks are
that too. Yeah, it's like, he's like, he sees Poe Dameron smoking all these stormtroopers that were like his whole life. He's been abducted as a baby and raised like he's the Nazi youth, in this world.
Everybody wanted him to be like the one stormtrooper that's going to try to convince other stormtroopers to defect and, have a different cause. And it's like, like do their own thing and not just belong to a faction of some kind, to like do their own shit. That would have been cool.
Yeah, there's just so much. What are you doing with this? Like, there's no clear focus, in retrospect. And like when I saw it, I'm just absorbing, like, wow, this is so cool, Star Wars. But yeah, thinking about it, I'm like, fuck, this is bad.
Yeah. Too bad.
Start. Then a year later, Rogue One came out. Now, I know it's not a part of the trilogy, but this was genuinely a good film. It made $1 billion. It was.
I still don't think it was a good film. I would call this the least worst Star Wars Disney film, but that's not saying it's good.
It's messy. It's messy because Gareth Edwards had something he was doing, and then they meddle with it, and then they try to save it with the Vader scene at the end. And the Vader scene's cool, because it's like, in the era of New Hope, you get to see, his power with the ability to capture it. But yeah, no, it's like I own it, but I'll probably never rewatch it unless I have to do a video or something and get the context again. It's just, I've seen it once. Well, I've seen it multiple times, but it's one of those like, now that I've gotten better stars like Mando, it's like, why would I ever go back to Rogue One? Like, I'm at the point now, just like with Marvel, there's certain things where it's like, I don't care what Easter eggs and knowledge I need out of this thing for the saga. I'll just read it in a paragraph and then let me watch the thing I want to see.
Well, what's funny is that the paragraph of this is in A New Hope, so it's just like you don't really need this at all. Just...
Also, there was no Bothan spies that I know of that helped.
No. Bothan spies were for the second Death Star. Not many Bothans died. That's in the
You're right.
Critically well received, and that Vader scene, oh my god! But The Last Jedi, this was where things started to fall off. This was the film that changed the course of Star Wars forever. Everything you hate about Star Wars right now can be drawn back to the release of this film. Now, some people love The Last Jedi.
It's funny in a way how like TLJ literally changed lives.
Yeah.
Altered courses of history.
Got careers through YouTube because of this movie.
Well, and it got people like, I'm not a Star Wars channel really, but like this film got me to look into more internet stuff and YouTube, interact with people, and then actually, I'm interested in film, and so I can make a channel and interact. Like, it is partially because of this fucking film.
Yeah, no, Last Jedi is why I got into bullshitters and how I eventually found you through Super Chat and hit you up on Facebook.
Like I had a channel before this. Like I had my channel started maybe a year before this, but like I didn't interact with anybody.
I didn't. For me, I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't start doing YouTube at all till following the bullshitters, and I got the idea like, wait, I can do this to whatever degree,
Yeah. Exactly. All right. What's up, chat? Riot Kitty's in the chat. What's up, Riot Kitty? Good seeing you around again. Yep. I think she's got another stream tomorrow morning. She's trying to get into the groove as well again. There. Grandmasters, people only remember Rogue One for the Vader scene. Yeah, pretty much. I don't.
It's really good.
I remember Saw Gerrera. I like Saw Gerrera. Save Dream.
Save the rebellion.
See, I can only remember you. I remember your
lies every day.
In the Rookie's test or quest one, you're like, save the collective, save the dream. I remember that more than I do.
Yeah, it's funny. That's probably the first like meme between us where it's like, I don't care if anyone else cares or wants to know the context. This is like for us,
Yeah. Just hilarious. I love that. Right.
What's up, zombie?
Yep. Yep. Oh shoot. Okay, cool. Peel's coming in. What's up, peeps? Right, Kitty says, yeah, kind of me too. Got into the fandom stuff, whatnot after that. Grandmaster says TLJ is when everyone got the red pill. Yeah, that's the beginning. That's our first dose of the red pill was because of TLJ. So as much as I fucking hate it, I'm glad that it existed to get us to start thinking of things differently. Not because, again, its quality is poo.
Think of it like this. It was think of it like this. Without Lance Armstrong getting ball cancer, who would Lance Armstrong even be?
Yeah, he would just be whatever, He'd just be some dude who rode a bicycle and shit.
Yeah, remember his cameo in Dodgeball is like, oh, yeah, man. He's like, you're quitting. Like, oh, I'm sure you got a good reason. He's like, when I was diagnosed with testicular and this and that cancer all at the same time, I had to dig deep and not quit, but I'm sure you got a good reason. Like,
and you're just like, I just don't feel like it. And like, oh yeah, totally great. Yeah, good job, Peter. Yep. Dodgeball is one of the most rewatchable comedies I think I've ever fucking seen.
It's especially great now with all the trans crap today, and all these just every facet of life with SJWs interfering. It's even funnier. Yeah, just the language of the movie. You're like, oh, no, you can't say that. Like,
this is why it takes us over an hour to get 10 minutes into a video.
Yeah, no, now you get, it's funny because we've already had this kind of stuff, just talking on the phone. And then we see people cry about Mauler. It's like, we spent 10 hours talking about a 20-minute video. Like, have you never talked with someone?
Conversation just comes out, Yeah, what's up, Zombie Box? Thank you for coming by, dropping a like. Appreciate that. Cool seeing you. Right, Kitty says, yeah, that, and I haven't streamed tomorrow. Hopefully you get back into it soon. Made some progress. That's good. Angus is trying to get into progress too, but got his ass not able to stream for 2 weeks because
strike already, just starting back.
Just boom, started off not as great. Not as great as you'd like, but
hey, it happens to Kanye, it's gonna happen to me.
Yeah, so if you guys that are following Black Angus reviews, just put some of his videos on playlist, on a tab or something, because he's trying to get back into the game, getting into the game again. Yeah, fitting. It's fitting to stop on Yoda or Yoda's disgruntled face. Yes, Yoda's little face.
Other people absolutely loathe its existence. I'm pretty much in the middle on this one. But regardless of what side of the coin you're on, this was where Disney Star Wars reign started to decline, and it's never actually recovered. When we talk about the decline of Star Wars,
his face,
globular face,
like his face enacts a cringe reaction, like visually when I see.
One of my favorite edits someone did was they put his fucking shrill laugh over Joker from Joaquin Phoenix, like.
That's fitting.
This is where it started. This was where all of the mess started. A film that takes the trilogy in a bold new direction, addressing the main flaw people had with The Force Awakens, that being it was too similar to A New Hope. Problem was, these new directions completely abandoned the setup of the film that came before. That's ultimately
Thus began the beginning of the directing wars. Fucking... I'm going to take this out of your movie. Well, I'm going to take this out of your movie. I'm going to take this punch out of your movie. Wouldn't that be great if they had like 10 films to make together, each every other? And
it's funny. I don't know if it's true. I saw some rumor that Rian Johnson is going to do a Disney Plus show. And it's funny because I made a fake news video that, I got a source in Lucasfilm, and apparently his trilogy is going to be 3 episodes of the Acolyte show.
That's funny. I like this. Kanye and Alyssa Milano would get along very well. Who's okay? I'm sure I know who Alyssa Milano is, but who the fuck's Alyssa Milano again?
She's famous for being in that show Charmed, and it's a chick show. So
I thought the way people were referencing her,
I think she was in a show as a young woman, and was like, maybe she was like late 80s, like fat material for like high school boys. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think she starred in some sitcom and then got like that show Charmed. But other than that, I don't know what she's famous for.
Yeah, makes sense.
My issue with The Last Jedi. It makes absolutely no sense in the context of that trilogy. The Canto Bight stuff also was absolutely god-awful, but it had moments of greatness.
The greatest teacher failure is.
I feel like that would have been a harder hit if he didn't actually just say the line specifically. Like, just
it would have been good. Right, it would have been good if like Luke actually went to fight Kylo and then died, but like he's like Obi-Wan, or it's like, strike me down, I'll be more powerful. Like that. Not saying that, but like do that where it's like, hey, I'm losing this battle, but this will help win the war. Kind of like Doctor Strange or something, where it's like, it's the only way, man.
I guess I mean just like, if you're being told exactly what something important is with that, like in House of Dragons and shit, they're not as direct in the wording that they say things. In Game of Thrones, it's like they don't directly say what they're saying. They, code it in something, so you got to kind of figure out what they're saying.
Yeah, well,
That'd be better
it's funny
than
because
especially a master like him being like, I'm saying what exactly I mean.
yeah,
Like,
well, it's funny because Last Jedi is so amoebus because it is like the pinnacle of awful, especially for franchise films.
yeah.
But it's a benchmark. But also, I do appreciate how bold it is, and it does have balls in how much it hates the fans. And it has like a clear artistic direction, not just like visuals, but like just the writing of it and whatnot. It's not holding any punches in what it's saying to the audience. Um, and then you see shit like She-Hulk, where it's very enjoyable for how bad it is, but it's so nonsensical and everywhere. It's all over the place, where it's not even got a clear direction besides we kind of hate men unless we can get a booty call and whatnot. But yeah, it's funny because like Last Jedi is a benchmark, but then we find newer stuff where it's like this is actually way worse.
That's what I'm saying. Actually, so based on the amount of shit that has been piled on after TLJ isn't as bad as other shit now. There's like different tier levels of shit now, and that makes it more difficult to judge what shit. It's like there's all these levels are of shit, but which level are you at? That's
Yeah, and it's
that's
hard
what we got to find out
because
now.
like when we talk about all the weird inconsistencies of just the Force Awakens on its own, and also the groundwork it's set for the rest of it to just fall apart even worse, is like as much as we see like controversy with Thor, where it's like someone's like, I read like one comic and I didn't like it, and I made Thor 4. And it's like, why would you employ someone that hates the source material to make an adaptation of it? But then at the same time, you see someone like J.J. Abrams, where it's like, the whole movie is like, do you remember that thing from the old stuff? And I'm doing it now. Where it's like, you're so much a fan, you're saying nothing with what you're adding.
bad feeling about this.
Yeah, and it's like you see two extremes where it's like you don't get. You could say Raimi is a huge fan, and he did great with Spider-Man, and he knows all the stuff, and he did great. But then you see someone like J.J. Abrams, where it's like, oh, he clearly loves Star Wars, but like he's so blind of just like I want to remake it,
It's just all surface level, and when it comes
or
to him, there's nothing
or
under
like
the
Zack
surface.
Snyder, where they're like just sucking themselves off, like look how much I get the comics even more than the writers of the comics.
Yeah.
It's so, but then you get someone like Johnson who just hates fans, but at least he has balls in how he does it.
Well, yeah,
So
well,
I
it's
can
like,
give
yeah,
him, tip my hat to him.
he's not as bad as the She-Hulk writers. Like he's not as bad as them. That's weird to
Rings
say.
of Power. Oh my god, yeah. It's funny because without that article today popping about the King Theoden actor hating the show and wanting no part of it, and he's like, I don't care just to like make money. I want to like make art. And without that, I completely forgot Rings of Power existed. Like
Yeah. It's like
it's
yeah,
like I will never forget Last Jedi because that is like a benchmark in my life as a
but there's
fan
so much shit
and as a
things.
creator.
Well, and we watched this and House of Dragons, and like we constantly talk about House of Dragons still, but it's like Rings of Power. If anything, is just and that show sucked and helped us realize how good House of Dragons is even better than it was anyway. Like it's just even betterer, you know.
Yeah,
That's pretty much.
it's a weird movie because yeah, like we're what 5 years, almost 6 years later after Last Jedi, and we're still watching movie videos rooted in that mayhem it's caused for Star Wars because it as bad as it is, it's so interesting and it's worth talking about and breaking down and finding the newest little wrinkles and angles to dissect it. Versus, I don't even care to watch Andor, and it's new stuff. I have no idea what it does for Star. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody made a video. It's like Andor is a great show at the worst time. It's like right now nobody gives a fuck and nobody wants to give a fuck. It's just
Oh my
not
god,
even
Raised
if
by Wolves. God damn it. Yeah, we need that final season. I'm so mad
Raised by
about that.
Wolves.
Yeah, it's HBO show. It's the one I told you about where
Oh,
they
they're
go to
actually Raised
Kepler.
by Wolves. Sorry, yeah, okay, you're right.
Yeah.
We're supposed to watch that soon. I saw GOT, so I was like, is that like a book?
No,
I don't know.
I disagree. I think Game of Thrones and House of Dragon are better, but I do really love Raised by Wolves. And it's a great show because they do this whole mystery box shit and then they like answer like 25 to 50% of the mystery box, but then the answer makes a new mystery box. So it's like you're unwrapping a gift and getting deeper. Oh, it's another gift
But what is
box,
this other
wrapping.
gift?
Yeah, and it's like, I finally ripped off all the tape and I know what it is. It's another, I don't know what it is.
That'd be
And
funny doing that. What's in the box? And
I've
it's
never
another
really
box.
seen that. I've
It's
never really seen that in a show where it's like, sure, they'll be like, oh, there's a cliffhanger twist, and now we're going to go in a new direction. But to like have you consistently like trying to pull the thread of the story, and the sort of answers you get only open up the universe in a bigger way of like unknown. It's very unique for my viewing experience.
Yep.
So I'm glad to see someone that's a fan of that. We'll have to talk, right, Kitty? Because yeah, I really liked it. There's so much I'm like, fuck, this is so beyond me, but I love it.
Yep, and that's one of the many things on my list. I've made so much progress this year watching movies, but I still am like fucking miles behind still. Like it's so unfair. I've watched like 45 movies in the last 4 months, but it's still like barely a dent on anything.
However, The Last Jedi is where the fandom started to absolutely fall apart as well. This was where the downfall of Star Wars truly began. And the scary thing is, this is still relevant to this day, despite the fact that The Last Jedi came out 5 years ago. The fandom is still a complete mess because of this film. You can't have a conversation about Star Wars on the internet without it turning into a toxic pissing contest.
It's literally like Game of Thrones and the War of the Five Kings or something. It's just like, whose side are you on? Which king do you follow?
Yeah, no,
like,
generally speaking, and I try, when I talk to people about like one coworker, like he likes Star Wars, but he's not into any of the fandom or talk or anything. It's just movies to him ultimately. And I'll be like, oh yeah, dude, like Star Wars is like Trump Hillary now. Like that really matches the divide of the country where it's like, if you like the sequel trilogy, you're probably a libtard. If you hate it, you're probably a conservative.
But
Like,
there's still enough in betweeners that are like, who's this other outlier over here? What's this thing over here? But you're right, the two bigger ones.
no, like it really is. Yeah, like the fandom really is indicative of where you are politically. And I hate that because Star Wars, before the argument was like, oh, the prequels are Star Wars, or it's like, oh, he shouldn't have done that. He did too much. Doesn't have the spirit, whatever. Like that was it was within the universe. It was never actually talking about real life.
It was like, yeah, could the force speed or the force jumps or Yoda using a lightsaber?
No one was like, oh, you don't like the prequel trilogy? You hate women and minorities.
You are a bigot.
Yeah, that was never the thing. And now it is. That's the instant defense.
So the way you feel about Star Wars is about who you are as a person rather than fucking just talking about the product. It's like, no. Who are you? What's your backstory? Person that does like
Star Wars was the thing
like, wow.
where it's like, man, if we met in real life, there might be so many facets that we hate each other on, but that is totally glossed over and forgotten because we're at the Star Wars table together.
You'd both have your Star Wars gear. You'd both have your drink together. You'd both chug the blue milk together.
Yeah, it really is this point because it completely defeats the purpose of Star Wars.
Now we're more likely to get in a fucking fight with each other. Literally, fucking punch you in the face. Say that again. Say that again. Say that Rey Skywalker again. Fuck you.
And that's one of my main reasons as to why I've began distancing myself from this franchise online. I say that as I make a video on it, but
I'm glad he's aware of what he just. Okay, good point.
Engaging with people on Twitter about the latest Star Wars show, I just can't be bothered anymore. And it's because of the discourse that this film started, still making its way through the fandom. Now I know that Solo: A Star Wars Story came out after the
Oh,
Last
yeah,
Jedi,
that was a
but
movie.
Let's be real.
I love how his voice has like changed from like a little bit more enthusiastic to yeah, Solo came out and it was a bit
Let me judge you this crap.
he's just like, oh yeah, this what he was probably making his video and was
Oh,
like finished. And then he's
Solo.
like,
Solo is in Cocaine Bear.
oh really?
Yeah.
That guy.
I can't wait.
That's funny. But I feel like this dude was making his video. He's like, oh, I'm all finished, and then he's like, wait, was there another fucking movie I missed? Solo, fuck. So I gotta put that into his video or something. Like, finished it and he forgot all about it.
Who remembers Solo?
Exactly.
But that-
Just like, oh, I forgot about this. Forgot about it. I just have to include it in the thing. I'll mention it real quick, and then
Perhaps
Make
the
Solo
thing that
2
I
never
despise
happen.
the most
exactly.
about Star Wars today is The Rise of Skywalker. This film has aged like milk for me. I cannot stand it. I hate this movie with a burning hot passion. When I first saw The Rise of Skywalker, I don't know what I was smoking, but I actually didn't mind it. But time was not kind to my take on this film, and I eventually woke up from my delusions. The Rise of Skywalker embodies everything
face.
that is wrong with Star Wars today. This is the definitive film in highlighting why this franchise is a complete and utter mess. The Rise of Skywalker's goal was to course correct for the people who hated The Last Jedi, but in the process, it also managed to piss off the people it was course correcting for by being a nostalgia bait.
I'm trying to imagine like a visual for the sequel, like on a road or something, like you know where the Force Awakens went to where TLJ went, and then where the Skywalker went. It's just like you know the type of pile up that happens along with it.
Chernobyl, I guess.
Yeah. Grandmaster says my favorite character in Star Wars is Han and Leia's daughter Jaina, but apparently I'm a sexist because I think Rey sucks. Yeah, that's what's probably one of the most annoying things about the whole you're sexist or bigot if you don't like blah 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 characters. It's like, but we like other ones that are of that have vaginas. What do you mean? Like they're like, no, you're sexist. Okay, so if you don't like every vagina, then you're a sexist. I guess
that's why I say bigot's a symbol, because it's like that video I think a Redskins game where the crowds are saying "fuck Joe Biden," and then those ones are crying like "you're all racist," like oh we're racist, like you just
we're all
racist. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, I'm a Nazi. Yeah, that's why I told you. Yeah, I'm a Nazi. I hate X thing that's woke. Yeah, I'm a Nazi.
That's why it is funny because like they made the words like less meaningful, and then if we also embrace the words, it'll be even more. It'll be even less meaningful afterward. It'll just be like, what is this word? Let's have new words. Let's just make new words for things because
yeah, these are the same people that'll read the newest article of like, we need to talk about sleep and white supremacy, and it's like, wait, what? This sleep is racist now? Like
consuming water and your bigotry.
yeah, like it
get a hold on this.
Yeah, it's like
your
I don't care.
homophobia is showing.
Yeah, that's where I'm at now. It's like you can't bludgeon me with these words because I'm not going to cower to it anymore. Before
if you continue to go to non-gay bars,
the instant reaction is like, "Whoa, I'm not racist. I like this." And you got to validate. No, you don't validate because then you're playing into their hand.
You
just
make
say,
it seem like
you're
they
right.
have
You're right. Yeah. Just get away from me. I don't care.
Yeah, we're not going to get along anyway. You already are assuming this based on this shit, so fuck you. Just get the fuck out. Yeah. What's up, Nick?
Hey,
we're watching a Star Wars video and extremely going at a snail's pace going through this because we have other shit to talk about here and there as we go. This is because it's been a while since we streamed, really, like talking about stuff. We actually haven't talked about Star Wars in like a fucking year or something.
Like a
there's
day.
been too much other shit.
Tales of the Jedi.
Well, I meant like on a stream or something. Like it's been like a year. Like we barely talk about it. So, you know,
easy attempt at a conclusion. And it also managed to piss off the people who actually liked The Last Jedi. There was simply no
I
winners.
hate that grip when people put it behind them like that. It's like, that's such an awful sword grip.
Yeah, you just hate Shadiversity.
Well, yeah, but when he pointed it out, and now when I see it, I'm trying to think about like, you know, hey, you hold a weapon and do that, and it's like there's so much less you can do. Like that's just it makes
it's because I know you like Shadiversity that I know that's where you got it from.
You cringe because I heard that.
But I watched an actual like swordsmith guy, his breakdowns of the prequels and the original and the sequel fights. He has like separate videos for each. And they're each like 30 minutes, and it's like so interesting. I got in this wormhole watching all this shit about the swords and film and stuff. And he goes all in depth about like I think he said probably the Duel of the Fates probably one of the best fights because of the styles they incorporated and like, like remember when we were watching Boba Fett in the finale and that guy makes that gay ass Michael Jackson twirl to shoot.
Oh yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
why did you do that? You literally wasted time to take the shot just to do a spin. And people tried to deflect the criticism of that by showing Darth Maul spin. And it's like, he's got a double bladed lightsaber. That spin is to evade, and also his backswing during the spin is a defensive measure while his back's turned.
It's
So
a defense and attack, really.
There is full combat context to that spin, you idiot.
With the double blade, it's a defense and attack, like right after.
But yeah, he mentions the underhand where it's like you lose so much force and whatnot, and it's a lightsaber, so if they hit it, you're probably gonna like have some jerk in your wrist, and so you're gonna possibly cut your own arm off.
Yeah.
So with the sword, if you're talking about like a katana, or something where it's like it's meant to have one edge and the other edge is like flat, that wouldn't be such a problem. But yeah, typically you don't underhand a weapon unless maybe you're stabbing.
The only
someone
time
with a
I've complained
kitchen
about
knife.
it is when people are holding lightsabers. So like
No, I
Ahsoka and
I actually don't
stuff.
hate Shad. It's just I'm cringing because Rookie, I know where he got it, and I don't like his voice.
You don't like his voice.
When I hear him on Mauler, I'm like, oh god, he's
It's
shrieking.
retarded.
With this film, the clear lack of a plan in this trilogy was blatantly obvious, and just recently Lucasfilm have pretty much admitted that they didn't have a plan and have regrets over where this trilogy went. Essentially confirming what we already knew. Bringing back Palpatine was the cheapest move I have ever seen from a franchise of this level.
I know that you disagree with this.
Disagree completely. I will, despite Disney and all of their weirdos that are in control, from Kathleen Kennedy down, especially with the pitch they had in that first trailer of like the whole saga, and this is coming to an end, they're rounding out. I think it makes perfect sense to bring Palpatine back because I don't think it's so far-fetched that he could just shift his essence right before his body died, especially if he's got clones that he's, trying to utilize or whatnot. Sure, the Snoke crap clone attempt, like that was a horrible writing fiasco. But the idea of the Emperor being able to like he chokes people across space, Vader does. So you would assume Palpatine can. I'm totally fine with the idea of like this is like some sort of like cosmic power that he's utilized. I'm totally fine with, especially with the idea of like I think in Disney's case, writing it was a cop out, but I think contextually, what better villain to round out where it's like, hey, he's really been the big bad the whole time for the whole saga for each trilogy. I think it was a good move, despite what they did. I think if it was a good film, no one would complain because you got like Sauron for 2 different ages.
I kind of would have preferred if like his essence lived or something, his consciousness, and he's like in a, either he's trying to be in a robot body, he's trying to be in a clone body that's efficient, that can handle his power or something, and it's like something like that where he's not just fully, yeah, I'm back though, bro, cool, huh? I survived. It's like I don't know. That's still tough for me. It's tough for me to get behind, but
I do agree.
But there are ways I can allow it.
I do agree with a lot of people's sentiment that it makes Vader's. I disagree that it makes Vader and Luke's journey pointless because, like, they fought the battle. They fought the battle at hand, and they thought they won. And so I don't think it undermines it necessarily. I get the sentiment of fans that come to that conclusion, but it doesn't change their intent and their goodwill as the heroes in the end. But yeah, I guess ultimately, yeah, they do fail, but you can say Luke still won, and but that's where they're stuck with the girl power narrative they made with Rey. So then it's like, I'm all the Jedi, and it's like, well, now, okay, here's the problem with Palpatine being back is the way they killed him is like there's no Horcrux like Voldemort, where it's like you break this, he's gone. You melt the ring, Sauron's gone. If Palpatine had a Horcrux or a ring or whatever, fine. But they've made it now where it's like, well, he could just come back forever. Like, did she really super kill him now? Or because they have no cap to this pot. That's the problem.
Yeah, which I kind of they could have incorporated that into this movie with Kylo looking for the whatchamacallit MacGuffins on Mustafar and whatever. Like, have those be the fucking like Horcrux equivalent of reassembling Palpatine or something. Like,
yeah. Oh,
something
I'm
like
glad someone said Dark Empire because I know the gist of that. And yeah, that's the other thing that irritates me about pleasing the fandom, and why I do get why the companies kind of don't care about the fans in certain ways, because it's like, do this, you have the EU, do the EU, and then they have a story that on plot points is essentially rekindling Dark Empire, because Dark Empire, the Emperor's still alive somehow or whatever. He's still a part of this, even though he's dead in Return of the Jedi, and that's a sequel to Return of the Jedi. So they did some EU inspired crap there, whether it's intentional or not. And you couldn't give them that. You couldn't at least be like, hey, this wasn't executed well, but I appreciate that you're dipping into a similar story. So that frustrates me, and that's why I hear, oh, the EU, fuck off. I don't care, because you can't be like, oh, the EU, but then they do something like it, and then you can't acknowledge it at least. It's like, hey, I appreciate the effort.
Well, and there's probably there's probably some good and bad in the alternate source materials here and there for some stuff, but I like what he says right here. So yeah, in Dark Empire, he uses dark transfer. So just that alone is like, that's an explanation instead of, well, we don't know how he came back. Dark magic, sorcery, shit. Who fucking knows? It's like, that's
no. I'm totally on board with what you said there,
answer. If they gave an answer in the movie, I'd be less annoyed, because I'd be like, well, he's a super master planner, does not want to die. He wants to be powerful forever. It's still, again,
he kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet.
Exactly. Like, I'd still have my own annoyances, but I'd be far more forgiving if they at least had a legit reason in the film. But what's up, Timmy? What's up, Timothy? Timothy, on your left. I see you.
Timmy.
I see you. I see you, Falcon. I see you.
They knew the script was shit. They just tried to fan service their way to $1 billion. And the most annoying thing is, it fucking worked.
Do you think they fan serviced in Rise of Skywalker? I don't know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't know.
Definitely. That's why I watched Rise of Skywalker and I'm like, oh, fuck, this is the third movie in this awful trilogy. But at the same time, I kind of like it the best because of they're clear, without saying sorry. This is a complete, like, I'm so fucking sorry. I'm trying to fix this. And it's last minute. I got a deadline. Here's what you got. It's kind of the same as like Joss Whedon's Justice League. It's bad, but given all the constraints and digging into it, it's like he did pretty good with what he had and what he could do to recontextualize it and cut it down. It's the same thing. It's not great. It's bad.
I mean, it's like, I'm glad
I appreciate the fan service, but it's still fucked up. It's still the sequel trilogy. Yeah. It's
good. It's good that they didn't double down on TLJ and go, yes, TLJ is the way. They were like, no. We gotta.
No, he nails it.
Shit under the rug. So it's like, okay, you're trying to sweep some shit under the rug. I can at least see that attempt. It's like they're trying to clean it up before you see it, but you're watching them sweep it under the rug, and you're like, I see you doing that.
Like, no. Yeah. So I appreciate it. Like, it felt like, JJ was, playing nice as a company man, but he got control again, and he's making some hard decisions to write what as despite his own involvement with sequel trilogy, as a fan, it's very clear he hates what Johnson did, and he did his best to
and
fix
this
it.
could be his last time ever doing a Star Wars. So
He, I fully applaud the effort, but the biggest thing for me with Rise Skywalker is like, besides Palpatine and like the Force Ghost voices, they completely ignored the prequel trilogy, in what is supposed to be a send off, circling back, a rounding out of the saga, and they ignore my fandom, and they're paying the price. And Filoni is just raking in all the dough and all the praise for embracing all of Star Wars, and it shows. So that's where we're at.
Yep. Real quick, Grandmaster says, I agree with you guys on one thing. If they were to, use the MacGuffin, it would use to show how they killed him. Yeah, like a Horcrux. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, because then it'd be like, well, Vader didn't know about this. Luke didn't know about this. They thought, boom, he's dead, and that would kind of absolve them of essentially their loss. But yeah, it's funny because people that say this, oh, it ruins their story. It's like, first of all, you're back to watch Star Wars when Luke balanced the Force in Return of the Jedi. So you're kind of a hypocrite to start off by coming back to Star Wars with sequel stuff with Luke Skywalker. And there's something else to work with. Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
Feel so bad for the actors of this trilogy. It once started with so much promise, and their characters all got bent over by sheer incompetence. Imagine being.
I didn't comment on it, but I love that scene, I guess, with him capturing Rey, where it's like the way that he's able to use the Force there to like freeze her.
Yeah,
place.
that was cool.
So it's like, because that's not a flashy type of Force move. It's just like she is just like immobilized and is at his mercy right there. It's like, that's, he's not that great at looking intimidating really, but that was like a pretty good an isolated moment of pretty cool to me.
Ridley for a second. You land the role of a lifetime. Things start very well, and then everything goes to shit because the people writing these films and planning these films had absolutely no idea what to do with your character.
I feel like she was just innocent and just totally like dragged through this, like, hey, people telling her certain things and she's just going along with whatever and not like is unaware, like just unaware of how everybody else feels about it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. The person with the most blame that never gets it is Mark Hamill, because his whole trying to wink to the audience, like, hey, I'm with you. This is awful. It's like, dude, he could have put his foot down. Whole movie, episode 8, relies on you. All right. You are Tom Brady. Patriots ain't going anywhere without you. And you could just hold out, because the whole movie is going to hinge on you. If they can't recast you, because we're going to riot.
And if they chose to not have him in it, that alone would just lose favor with
what
all
was
the
the
point
of episode
pay.
7? The whole point was like, we got to find Luke Skywalker to fix this shit. And then, yeah, he could have just sat on his hands. He doesn't have to break any NDAs with Disney. No, we've seen with Tom Holland how fucking crazy and scared they make these actors to divulge any secret stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, he could have just sat on his hands and be like, hey, you're going to fix the script and get a new guy. I'm not doing this story because you're destroying everything.
If especially when your character enough. Apparently,
he took the check. He ate. He cried out and ate his cake. He is. I made a video about this, and everyone's like, "Fuck you! You're wrong. How could you?" They're so mad that I said Mark Hamill's the reason to blame for Last Jedi, because he was the whole.
He was the strongest actor present in the film.
He's the legacy guy too,
and he just allowed it, and maybe voiced a few.
His one whimper was like, "I gotta have a scene with C-3PO." So then they just like bullshitted that, where he's like, see you around or whatever.
It's like, in House of Dragons, apparently, like George R.R. Martin was like, "Dude, your guys' people, like your acting is better than what I wrote."
Yeah, Patty Considine.
They embodied the characters better than what he thought they would be like, and is like, so I don't know if that's a good type of comparison, but the point is they changed things in the show to fit, like that wasn't written down because they embodied the character's actions so well. Like the scene where he drops the crown, like yeah, that's a scene, that's something that happened on an improv type of thing, but then they reshot it and like wanted to include that because of their improv doing that. They're like, that's actually cool. Let's include it in the thing.
Yeah, Curtis, I disagree because if Disney tried to gain control and spin like, well, Mark Hamill's holding up our production. All Mark Hamill has to do is be like, hey, I can't disclose anything about this story that they're filming or try and get me to film, but I'm doing this for y'all. You see all the interviews he's had through the years talking about like,
the legacy of that character.
George Lucas has all these cool ideas, it's whenever he's ready, like, yeah, I'm cool to do sequel. He's got some cool ideas. We would have, I think, besides like the shill fans that like it now because Disney owns it and it's popular, they would be the vocal ones crapping on Mark Hamill, but the fans would listen to him and be like, okay, I'm going to trust you on this. And Ryan Johnson would have gone bye-bye or just had to listen to Kathleen Kennedy, direct him, like, you're going to do this because you're under contract. I'll rewrite the shit because we're going to have a shit show on our hands. Or they just got a new guy.
Well, and if Disney said, that, hey, we wanted him to do it, but they had cool stuff for him to do, that'd be their word against his, where he'd go, well, no, that's a lie because that was horrible stuff they wanted me to do. And I wasn't going to do that because of how much I love the character.
It could have happened. All you had to do is, hey, I didn't disclose it. Someone stole my script.
Exactly.
That's all you had to do.
Mr. Jake online said this.
And then it's like, oh, yeah, that whole spin isn't going to work now. And then we'd all be dissecting the fucking shithole script we got. Yeah. And we'd be like, oh, thank God Mark Hamill had balls. But no, he's a fucking bitch. As much as y'all can love Luke Skywalker, and I think he's a good character and he's portrayed great by Mark Hamill in the original trilogy. And even the bits in the sequels, there's some new depth with him that Johnson got out of him in a horrible movie. But yeah, me not being an original guy, being a dark sider, I've never rooted for Luke. I've rooted for him to turn evil. Yeah, I would have, there'd be no like rioting on my part against Mark Hamill. Like, hey, here's a legacy guy. He wants to do right by the fans. But he wanted to do it after the fact, and that's why he's a bitch to me. He's whole, say what you want about JJ, Kathleen Kennedy, Iger, etc. It comes down to Mark Hamill going along with it and then crying out.
And there's actually more to it where like directors have walked away from working on Star Wars.
Guillermo del Toro walked away from The Hobbit.
Yeah, like there's been other people that walk away from things due to their own, I don't know if I'd call it integrity, but their own they don't creative differences. They don't like where it's going. They're gonna choose something else.
Colin Trevorrow, his firing, whatever, that's because he had working in the context of the sequel trilogy, he had a cool ass script that was for Star Wars fans. How much you'd like it is, mileage may vary, but he had something cool and reflective of the saga. And I can't remember if like it hinged on Leia or not.
Well, it's
but like he wanted to do something good for Leia, and yeah, and then we got what we got. So
well, and their scripts might have been able to stay if they agreed to whatever changes, but they probably declined and were like, nope, I guess I'm gone.
Despite the fact you're the lead, the very role that you've made your own and the defining role of your career ends up being something that you just want to be over. All the press tours that she had.
Do you think that Daisy will be able to get over this? I feel like Oscar Isaacs, yes. The guy plays Finn, yeah. I think she will.
It's yet to be seen. I think this is just going to always mark her. She is Rey. That's what she's going to be known for. But yeah, she might have good role until she does some just like crazy thing or like gets in like some sort of like solo DC film like Joaquin did. She has to do something crazy like that with another franchise, I think, to really stand out.
I want her to start being like Nicolas Cage, accept any offer that you can get and see.
He did that because all the debt he got.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying to see a wide range of her acting potential, like that'd be because she didn't really do anything that that much that inquires acting in the sequel trilogy. So I want to see if she can do some crazy shit.
Of people wondering who Rey's real parents were. It was one of the hottest questions in pop culture at the time.
You know, people wondering who Renee's sons were, or who the fuck, like
I saw
their real parents were.
I don't think I say
Strong.
about a friend sent me a post from a Facebook group for House of Dragon, and it's I can't remember his name, but the Valerian brother when he's like they're bastards,
Yeah.
that scene, but it's like him yelling, but it says he's like these little niggas ain't niggas at all.
They're like pasty white. It's like, no, you have been deceived, everyone. That's
just
funny.
playing the character had no idea what the answer was. Are you kidding me, Disney? Anyway, The Rise of Skywalker ultimately was just a massive shit on the Star Wars franchise. The definition of stumbling your way to a conclusion. The sequels are not looked back on fondly. It's been 3 years since the sequels came to an end, and the general consensus of this trilogy is that it is the worst of the 3 trilogies. And it is the main reason so many fans have turned on Disney. It's the main reason still to this day that Disney still have no idea what they're doing with future projects. It's the main reason we haven't seen Star Wars on the big screen for 3 years and probably won't for at least another 2. The sequels were a mistake, and Star Wars as an IP is still paying for it all these years later. The Last Jedi was the start of the downfall, but The Rise of Skywalker was the rapid plummet straight down. And Star Wars still hasn't recovered from the effects of this trilogy.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they've had ups and downs. But the ups not being very high, of course, but because of the Mando and stuff, I guess. But
you gotta hit play.
Star Wars is basically exclusively on Disney Plus these days. We aren't getting Star Wars films on the big screen. Lucasfilm seem to have completely just conceded any prospects of seeing Star Wars return to theaters anytime soon, and they're just milking this Star Wars cash cow to promote their streaming platform. However, it hasn't all been bad. The first of these shows was The Mandalorian. Now, this is where the mess begins to heighten for me because The Mandalorian was genuinely a great show. This is why Star Wars is a complete mess because it can't even decide whether or not it actually wants to be good or wants to be bad. It keeps teasing fans and making them hopeful that things are actually going to become great. And that's why it's so frustrating because they're capable of making things like The Mandalorian, like Andor, but they're also capable of pumping out shit like The Rise of Skywalker and botching shows that are easy layups, such as Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi. But The Mandalorian is ultimately the reason why Star Wars are so focused on shows over films. If The Mandalorian hadn't have been as successful as it was, then shows like Obi-Wan Kenobi probably would have been films on the big
fucking scene. The rocks. Rise, my rock children, rise.
Big screen, which you can't look me in the face and tell me that Obi-Wan Kenobi would not have been better off as a film. One thing that is common amongst many scripts for Disney Plus shows, and this goes for the MCU as well, is that they
Falcon, you gotta do better. You've got to do better.
Why does he even need a shield if he's got his fucking wings that are bulletproof?
No.
Seem to be too short to be a show and too long to be a film. That's because these shows were blatantly supposed to be films in the first place, but they underwent rewrites to adapt them into shows. And it's very obvious when you watch virtually anything on Disney Plus that isn't Andor. But regardless, The Mandalorian showed that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are the creative future of Star Wars. These two just get what fans want. The projects they touch seem to be less corporate, with a genuine love for the characters being blatantly obvious. There was just an element of care put into The Mandalorian that made it nothing like the sequel trilogy. There was nuance to the storytelling, payoff for the big questions, likable characters, and a genuine, unique concept for the show being a sci-fi western in the Star Wars universe. Plus, they gave us Baby Yoda.
Yeah, Baby Yoda! He's so adorable. I love him.
I'm so indifferent. I don't care.
Well, here's the biggest. Baby Yoda is the crux of the problem with Star Wars. They've had a decade, and the biggest thing they've done is a TV show. The face of Star Wars is Baby Yoda. That's all they've done, and that's it. That's the pinnacle thus far, and that's sad because say one about Lucas after the original trilogy, and the prequels and all that. If you hate them, but there's so much. Even if you hate the prequels, there's like this and that. There's all these things you can nitpick, and there's all this imagery. It's all these iconic moments that there's not just one thing that is the prequels. For Disney, the whole era is just Baby Yoda. Like people go to the Disney places that they've made for the sequel crap, and like, where's Baby Yoda? But it's sequel trilogy crap. He's not in the story yet, But it's like, Ray or whatever, Baby Yoda, Mando. That is Star Wars. Yeah. They no one wants to buy their shit besides that.
True. Very true.
How much I begin to hate what Star Wars has become, he will forever be adorable.
Grogu.
Shows like the Clone Wars Season 7 come along, and 2/3 of it are just garbage. Like, really, really bad.
Thank you.
And then the final third, the Siege of Mandalore arc, is a straight up masterpiece. It's just going from one extreme to the other. And then we have the likes of Star Wars Visions, which in my opinion was bad, but that's mainly due to the fact I can't stand anime, so that's probably more of a me problem than anything. And shows like The Bad Batch are...
Yeah, do you agree so far with...
Oh yeah, he's really nailing it for me. Like, I don't care. Like, I love Attack on Titan, but like, I'm not some weeb where it's like, oh my god, the next anime. Like, I'm like, I watch Attack on Titan despite it being anime because I just don't like the format, the kind of visual extremes they do. It's kind of off-putting, but I like the range of it with Star Wars and the creative just potential. I thought they had cool little vignette stories with letting anime people play with the ideas of Star Wars. And my whole thing was like, this is going to be an experiment series, and whatever people like out of it, they're going to give those creators a bigger opportunity. And apparently that's happening to some degree. And I guess there's going to be another season of Visions. I don't know. I didn't watch it all, but yeah, the first one, especially with like the Sith killing the Sith and whatnot. And that was cool. And yeah, they did extreme wacky visuals that weren't always staying in context of the universe, but like they're just letting them have fun with it. And I appreciate that. It's like they've screwed up so bad that they're just like, whatever can make us money, just try something.
It's literally throw anything at the wall. If
nothing we're doing is working, go ahead. We don't care anymore because we've screwed the pooch so bad. We'll let you do anything.
Yeah.
And so yeah, no, he's really nailed it. Bad Batch, I thought, why would you take that from Clone Wars and make a whole show out of it? I think the show there's episodes I like. A lot of it's filler, but I liked it because it felt like, it's not having like big context for Star Wars, but it's just like we're kind of living in Star Wars. You're kind of going through like, hey, let's go over here in this pocket of the world and over here. That was fine. But no, it doesn't deserve a show. It definitely doesn't deserve a second season. Yeah, and their intro in the Clone Wars, boring. And then there's like those two woke girls with Ahsoka. That was crap. And then the last third was like, whoa, like, why didn't you make this the whole season? This was freaking awesome. I was drudging through Clone Wars until I got to the last 4 episodes, and it's like, oh man, yeah, we're getting some really good. This is a ribeye when I've been getting fucking white meat chicken the first 8 episodes.
Yeah.
Fine, I suppose. But then we get to the big boy shows like the Book of Boba Fett. The Book of Boba Fett is, in my opinion, not a good show. It tries so hard to ride the coattails of The Mandalorian that it couldn't even let Boba Fett be Boba Fett in his own show. This was the first major misstep that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have had with the Star Wars IP. And to be honest, I think it's about the only one. Don't get me wrong, not everything is awful in this show. I think the 2 episodes that, don't have Boba Fett in them are genuinely incredible. But all that does...
Again, I don't think these are amazing, but they're so much better than the rest of the Boba Fett shit.
Yeah, exactly. See, this is the thing. Is like with what they want to do creatively and like tame Boba Fett, which I'm fine with like reinventing him because he doesn't have like, I don't care about your EU crap, whatever. Within the context of the films, we see him as a kid for a little bit, and then we know his dad, and then we see him in episode 5, and then he gets whacked in 6. So there's like 15 minutes of screen time, give or take, for the saga in the films. So you got a lot to play with, and especially you're gonna like reinvent him and send him in a new way with what he already knows. Yeah, a lot of potential to play with. I didn't hate everything. Like, I really like Tusken stuff and all that, but besides like the dancing, that was like cringe, but I like that he like found a family and then they get slaughtered. But then they never pay it off with like, this is for the Tuskens, or let me cash in, where it's like, hey, I can speak to Tuskens. I know your culture. I've earned my rifle or my stick or what.
Let's teach the citizens how to fight like they do, because it's different than what these other invaders.
Yeah, well, they did that in Mandalorian. The second episode, they make essentially cowboys and Indians work together. They get the Tuskens and the townsfolk to take on the Krayt Dragon. And they never do that with Boba Fett when he's had way more in-depth experience as far as we've seen so far with the Tuskens. But yeah, the best moments of that show were when we were not seeing him, which was, again, it's Baby Yoda. That was the whole point of those 2 episodes. And that is Star Wars now, is Baby Yoda. And then like Clone Wars does cool stuff as far as like impactful context for Star Wars. Those are the 2 things they got.
Yeah.
Like,
highlight.
Like, sure, you can tell me whatever Bad Batch and Omega and whatnot, but I don't care. There's nothing impactful from that show. Even like the good opening hour episode of Bad Batch with the 66 and the shift, that was good, but it didn't carry over. And I liked the filler. I liked living in Star Wars and playing with it, but it didn't impact me. I probably won't watch it again. Well, Mandalorian, I have no problem rewatching.
Yeah, you're gonna make me fucking watch it. Fuck you.
Like just how poor the show around it was in the first place. The fact you needed Mando to come into your show to make it good essentially says all you need to know. Boba Fett's character made absolutely no sense in this show. He is a complete and utter pushover. No longer was he the cool character that sits back, observes, barely says anything. The very essence that made the character so popular in the first place. No, he just lets everybody he talks to completely overshadow him. Like, I understand you want to develop the character along and usher in this new take on it, but at least have it make sense with what you literally just established when he showed up in The Mandalorian, which takes place just before this show begins. This, in Mandalorian, was Boba Fett. This Boba Fett just doesn't make any sense. The Boba Fett that murders Bib Fortuna at the end of Mando Season 2 is not the Boba Fett we see at the beginning of this show. Tamora Morrison himself has even expressed his disdain in how this show handled Boba Fett, and this is part of an entirely bigger issue with Disney Star Wars, that being the handling of legacy characters, like Boba. Legacy characters come back and are just caricatures of themselves. Boba Fett highlights that perfectly.
It's honestly just like never have them come back again. But like you said, they really aren't great at doing original, but they're almost better at doing like a Mando type of thing, where it's like it's based off of Boba Fett, but you made your original character off. Same with Baby Yoda. It's not Yoda; it's a baby version. That's as close as they can get to original.
Well, the problem is Mandalorian is very clearly adapted from what they want to do with Boba Fett, but they're like, well, let's not ruin the legacy character. And, we don't have to be constrained with that legacy character because we got a whole new clean slate. But then it's like, oh, well, actually that did well. So let's bring Boba Fett in. but he would just be the same ultimately, but without the baby element, at least as a start. And yeah, again, I'm totally fine with Tusken Raider idea because they use that to like, despite whatever riches he got, he was left for dead and no one cared. And so this has been something, he's never attached since his father's died. And he's like really facing that now. That's a good, I applaud them. That's a good start. And they don't even pay it off where it's like, hey, I avenged my family, the Tusken Raiders. And yeah, I'm going to murder the crime lord and I'm going to take over. But I'm nice and I'm going to lower water prices because I'm the good mobster. And it's like,
I'm going to give
what?
thieves jobs.
Yeah, it's like you can have a villain not just be mustache twirling and nefarious 24/7. Like Thanos is awesome because you see that his effort and his cause, his own people are dead for not doing what he offered, and so he's giving his perception this gift to the universe. And it's like, well, half will go away, but the other half will prosper because of me. And so he's seen it planet by planet. I was just gonna do it quick. And he's not nefarious. Like he's a bad guy, especially in context where our heroes are watching, but he's not nefarious. I assume when he snaps the gauntlet that he is liable to kill himself, that he's open to it. And you see an Endgame where it's like, oh, they're undoing what I did. Like I completed my destiny. He's totally fine with dying if it means he completes his mission. And most villains aren't that deep, that they just like, I got to do this. I'm going to be on top. No one else can. He doesn't care. He just wants to make an impact that he thinks is good. And that's just one example of a complex villain. Yeah, you don't have to be. There's this idea they put him in the rogues gallery of Star Wars with Palpatine and Maul and stuff, and he's not that. He's just a bounty hunter. It's only nefarious because he was working for the Empire, but he could have been a bounty hunter for the rebels. It's just a job. But Disney thinks, well, he's a bounty hunter, so he's a bad guy, and that's the baseline. And that's the problem from the start, is their perception is so black and white.
Well, they think that hunting, well, if you're a bounty hunter, that means you want to kill somebody, so therefore they're a bad guy or something.
Hey, what's up, Keely?
What's up, Keely Chow? Keely Chow. What's up? Yeah, we're looking over a Star Wars video. It's been a while since we streamed and stuff, so, doing a throwback kind of a thing in a way, getting us to talk about things and good video to bounce off of.
Not to mention the sheer incompetence in basic logic in shows like the Book of Boba Fett.
Fucking scene. Ignore the trailer or the ad.
Where he essentially flies the Slave One, or whatever it's called now, Fire Spray. I don't know, man. The Slave One into the Sarlacc pit for his armor, even though, he escaped the Sarlacc pit and still had his armor on. Like, what? Why are you looking in the... I don't understand.
Yeah.
Now, all of this hasn't even touched on the whole cameo issue. Now, if you've seen any of my MCU videos, you know that this isn't just a Star Wars issue. The MCU are doing the exact same thing. Cheap cameos for that nostalgia hit to make you forget how poor the show...
I feel like the Murdoch one wasn't a cheap cameo, but I feel like if he had a little bit more screen time in that, then it would have made more sense and not felt like a cheap cameo.
It was cheap how they roped him in and then, oh, he's gone. And
yeah, if he was like a part of
he
the
could have
plot
still been in the
some way-
plot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If he was in the plot in some way with the legal thing, be like, no, we're just gonna have that part be brushed over now. It's done. Oh, that's lame. That's the cheap part.
It's like, oh, good news. You're off
free
the
to
hook
go.
for murder.
Yeah, you're
Like,
totally off the hook now. Instead of,
it's like,
well,
wait,
we're working through it, and I'll need to be working on this for a while here, so we'll need to see each other, every now and
so
then.
you have connections to a weapons company, like.
Yeah, this is hard for me to defend you, and I'm a good lawyer. Fuck you.
Yeah, it's also, oh my God, with that, it's like, all right, you have been tied to a weapons company, and this guy that you're framed for murdering by that guy that killed himself also was able to have access to this weapon shit that has terrorized multiple cities on this planet. And also, we're aware of multiple planetary beings like Thanos that affected our lives. So like there's a lot of things we need to like have oversight, and they're just like, oh, whatever, you're okay, you're Spider-Man, but okay, we know. Go on. Like,
yeah, I don't think they like to like have things challenged like that. Sometimes they like to touch it, but not really.
yeah, it's the
challenge
red
it.
letter media meme where it's like consume product and get excited for next product.
Yeah,
Like that's
pretty
what
much.
that was
It
part of the
actually
cameo
is.
is because like, oh well, yeah, we're gonna be, dip into Daredevil because you like that show from Netflix, and so there's gonna be more later.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Star Wars is doing the same thing over and over again. Yes, they did it in Mandalorian season 2, but to be fair, the cameo of Luke and Ahsoka in that show actually made sense. It fit into the story, it didn't feel shoehorned in, and the show around these cameos was genuinely good in the first place. But with Book of Boba Fett, it was like, shit, this show isn't good. Let's throw in a dash of Ahsoka Tano with a side of Luke Skywalker, a sprinkle of Black Chrysanthemum, and a dollop of Cad Bane and bone apple teeth. This show is good now. And what's worse is there are large portions of Star Wars fans that absolutely eat this up, myself included sometimes. I'm not going to act all high and mighty like it's never made me happy before seeing Cad Bane
What
show.
was this weird ass line right here? That's like the coal mine calling a cabinet a blink.
Yeah, he was pretty saying that's like
So
the pot
stupid.
calling the kettle black, but he makes stupid Star Wars names for it.
So dumb.
And it's like, well, that would not be a saying.
Yeah, no.
Go up. But the problem is, this is setting a dangerous precedent for future Star Wars shows, such as Andor. Now, let's talk about Andor for a second.
I
said
don't
on
want
this channel
to.
a few months ago that this show
Boring.
is
Skip this part. No.
essentially a savior of Star Wars because it's actually a well-written story that puts character story, world building above cameoing.
It's your favorite guy from King Arthur.
Victory. But a lot of people take issue with Andor because it's boring, it's slow, and this is one of the reasons as to why, despite the fact Andor is a great show, I've become more frustrated with the current state of Star Wars. Andor has not performed well, despite the fact it's one of the best Star Wars shows we've seen, in terms of objective quality when it comes to filmmaking, world building, story, and character. Yet because the cameos aren't pouring in left, right, and center, people just think that it's boring. Now, I will acknowledge that there is naturally less interest in the show because many people just don't know who Andor is, so I expect the show to perform on the lesser side of shows like Obi-Wan. Absolutely. But I remember when the first trailer for Andor dropped, and the first thing I saw on YouTube was, who will appear in Andor? Will Palpatine appear in Andor?
I mean, honestly, for me, it's just like it's the how many Star Wars thing after all the other shitty Star Wars things, and I have a limited time on the planet. Do I want to spend it on this show? I don't know. Like after all this other shit, it's kind of what.
Well, no, for me, the theorizing of like where will this guy come in, that was fun for like Force Awakens theories into Last Jedi because we're intrigued. It's not that, oh, we just want like, oh, is this guy gonna cameo and we're just gonna see him for no reason?
That's the Grace Randolph wanting of stuff.
Yeah, it was like for context of like, oh, how will this play into the bigger picture? Because this guy is here at this point in the story, and we're seeing the side story. How does it fit in the bigger picture? But yeah, I would say it's all case by case. Like, what is the theory? Is it just clickbait shit of like, hey, we might get this person in here because it's like there's no depth to it, or it's like, oh, will Darth Vader be an Obi-Wan? Well, like, what will that mean? Because as far as watching the saga for, it's like, oh, the last time they saw each other was Mustafar when you get to New Hope. So having a second meeting, that's new territory. So theorizing what that context, like, that's fun. Even if you think like, oh, well, why would you do that? That ruins the saga. Whatever. That being aside, yeah, no, I think it's it's all about like why are you theorizing? And yeah, if the Grace Randolph shit where it's like, well, there's like no Easter eggs. I can't make content on this. I just got to actually watch a show and that's it.
Just watch a show and not make a video. What?
Well, no, you can make video, but like there's no hook of
no.
Like,
that's what she's thinking.
Yeah,
it's like I can't make a video if there's not a thing to. I don't know what do I put in the title? And
it's just
is a show.
It's knuckle dragging. It's like it's lowest common denominator. You know that's the problem. It's not theorizing. It's why are you doing it? It's just content. You know, that's the problem.
Well, so when he says though, like that like people aren't seeing it because there's not a cameo in it, I think like that's referring to a small section of people that even are aware of the show. It's like there's people that aren't even covering it at all because it's just another Star Wars thing. It's like, oh, it's around, but you know, how many people want to give it a try, really? I mean, a lot of people stuck with She-Hulk because it's so fascinating and how bad it is. That there's a lot of conversation to come out of it. With this,
honestly,
it's like, well, I mean, okay, this is
seeing a little bit more of Andor, you know, from this video. I'm like, that's kind of piquing my interest, not on a Star Wars level, but
we might put this on a list to
in
check out
in the
some
sense
point.
of like, ooh, I love boring stuff. You know, I love stuff where it's like it's not zip zow boom pow effects
it doesn't
and
need.
like
It doesn't.
When
need,
I watched House of Dragon, the one time in that show where I'm like, fuck,
they tried to have a fucking action scene.
Is the action scene where Matt Smith has like one word or one line in the whole episode. That episode when he like kills the crabber and they have this whole action. Like, I didn't give a fuck about that. That was the worst part of House of Dragon.
That was where I was the least
engaged
because there's nothing
I'm
going
so just
on.
like, okay, here's action. Okay, like
Can we go back to the
no
talking scene in a bedroom? Thank you.
Yeah, there's no real depth to it. It's just visual. Wow, he's burning stuff and he kills some people. He tricked them.
We didn't even know
did a
anything
war
about.
crime.
We knew nothing about the fucking enemy anyway, so it was even less.
But by our standards, he did a war crime by faking a surrender and then slaughtering them. But you know, it's everything after where it's like, I did this and then I go see my brother and then I have a crown. And is this a move of threatening his reign? And then it's actually, I'm going to show fealty. I took out the crabber for you. And like all that political intrigue was what was the payoff. But I didn't care about the fucking action. It's like Rogue One where they, you know, have this Star Wars porn scene of all this like this battle and mess. And it's like, yeah, it looks good and it's fun, but there's no depth to it. Like, I don't care. Same with Vader. Like Vader, that's a cool ass scene, but it's just shoehorned in. There's no besides the reveal of like, oh, he almost got the plans on Leia's ship. That's it. That's the depth, and it's just referential. It's not plot in itself for that movie. So I get really annoyed now that I'm older. I don't care about the Flash. Like Duel of the Fates, that action scene of Maul and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, like that, that's a payoff for all this buildup. And now they got to face this enemy. And we know Anakin is Vader. But that's the only context we got going into that and what's going to happen. Because like, as far as you know, episode 1 could have been the point where they snatch Anakin and make him a freaking Sith Lord. You start training to be a Sith Lord or manipulating him. You didn't know. So there's a lot of buildup for that. And also we're seeing Obi-Wan in his heyday as a young kid taking on a Sith Lord. There's a lot of stuff there that it has referential parts to it, but has its own meaning in that moment. But yeah, seeing this Andor clips where I'm like, ooh, a boring show of just intrigue and no references. Like, oh, okay, that sounds actually kind of good.
I'd actually be surprised if there isn't that many references to stuff. That's impressive if they don't, because you know Disney.
Will freaking Max Rebo appear in Andor? Will Salacious B. Crumb be a Sith Lord in Andor?
What?
And it just highlighted to me how accustomed people have come to these contrived cameos in Star Wars. It seems like people would rather sit down and play Guess Who with the next cameo than actually get invested in an original story.
I've never honestly ever fucking like Guess Who with. I just want to see a fucking cool, interesting, fucking Star Wars thing. Yeah.
No, yeah, Curse. I love the Vader scene. It's cool to see him with the capabilities of film to portray his power. Love it. But at the end of the day, like it's not impactful. To a degree, it's not impactful
It's just
because
confirmation that
it's
so
only
he was a
impactful.
badass, huh?
It's only impactful because of all the other movies that we've seen his character, and now we get to see him with full potential carry out mayhem. Like it's like a Jason scene in Star Wars. Like, whoa, this is kind of horrific, you know. That's why, but it has all this baggage to it of you really only care because of who the character is that other people made. It's just banging your toys together. There's nothing like you watch Iron Man. There's a lot of cool action shit, but it's like, man, just you take away that stuff and just like his transformation as a person that's self-absorbed and hedonistic, and then he sees a bigger picture and his responsibility to the world with his power as
When
a
it's like he was
businessman.
hanging out with Marines, and they all got fucking killed.
Yeah,
with his
and
weapons.
his weapons, he sees his own name, and he's
He almost
damaged by it.
got killed too. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's very humiliating for him, and he literally gets his face rubbed in shit for months, and has to actually dip into. He can't just rely on money. He has to dip into his own power, which is his mind, and yeah. So that's what I mean. Where it's like action without depth to like bond with. It's forgettable and it's meaningless, and that's why I roll my eyes anymore when I see that stuff. I'm like, okay, fuck, we're in the action scene now, whatever.
Yeah, we used to when I was a kid. I'd used to like fast forward and watch like the Jedi Geonosis fight and all that stuff, all the battles, and like in 300, I'd watch just the battle scenes. But now I'm like, oh, let me pay attention to what's going on in the talking scenes and what's going on with their character here. Oh, a fight scene. Okay, it'll be a few minutes before I gotta think again. So it's just like, yeah, essentially.
Yeah, that's why I'm intrigued with this Andor show now, because I'm like, ooh,
we can put this on our
show.
list. We can put this on our list to check out.
Time, and that is just sad. Andor is not performing well despite the people who have watched it all the way through, for the most part, praising it as some of the best Star Wars ever. Now, I wouldn't go that far personally. I think it's a great show, but it's not the best thing since Empire or anything like a lot of people are making it out to be. But regardless, Disney don't care if you love this show. They care about its performance. Moral of the story, Andor can be the best show on Disney+, but if it performs terribly, it becomes less likely that we're going to see more shows on this level in future. Instead, Disney are just going to default to the contrived cameo situations of shows like
I want to see Andy
Book of Boba Fett
Serkis's fucking scenes. I'm like, okay, he's shouting in it, getting in there. I didn't know Andy Serkis was in the show.
I want the Force, precious.
Yes, gives it to me.
It's my birthday.
Seats. People love it. I see people say Andor doesn't feel like Star Wars, and I'm like, yeah, exactly. Star Wars recently hasn't been good. This is an entirely new approach. A better approach for more mature storytelling, not a theme park ride of a show with zero substance, but plenty of wow factor. But this is all just Andor. Let's talk about Obi-Wan. This is the one that really put me off Star Wars in recent times. And I know this is the show that made a lot of people throw in the towel when it comes to Star Wars, because...
Yeah, that's the thing. Andor's following this fucking shit. Like, god damn. Like, not good timing. Not good timing. At all.
Oh, man. Look, Obi-Wan Kenobi is not a terrible show. It has moments of complete brilliance. The problem is you've got to go searching for it behind all of the avoidable rubbish in between. Obi-Wan was the biggest layup for Disney that they have ever had. I mean, you've got two of the most iconic characters in cinema.
I'm imagining like some fat shirtless dude on the court trying to dribble the ball and like fucking tripping over his own feet as he tries to lay up a free layup or something. That's what Kenobi is. Just like a full-on fucking fumble.
Leading your show, the return of Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, who the fans adore, promising a rematch of the century, and it's mid at best.
Hey, sweetie.
What the fuck? Okay, that's a weird ad. That's a weird ad.
Even possible. You promise a rematch of the century, yet put Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in a freaking construction site that looks like it was filmed down the road. Like, where is the spectacle? The final duel's location was slightly better until you realize that it was clearly all filmed on the volume set, which is criminally overused in Star Wars shows, except for Andor. Obi-Wan Kenobi, from a production standpoint, felt cheap. It felt like a high-budget fan film. Obi-Wan needed a budget
A bad
like what
high-budget fan
Andor
film.
had. The sets in Obi-Wan felt small, contained, and straight up cheap. This was the show that Disney needed to throw everything at, and it felt like they just gave it enough for it to be completed. If you wanted to keep the budget on this show down, then spend more time with Obi-Wan and his PTSD. Spend more time with Vader by himself in isolation. The fact we didn't get a scene with Vader in the show by himself, enduring the pain and suffering, reminiscing on Padme, is just a crime. The agony of what Vader goes through behind the scenes, most Star Wars fans would have preferred seeing that than a cheap-looking fan film of a first fight. Not to mention that
the Leia
sequence, which,
the Leia run.
yeah, Deborah Chow really
fucking.
Oh, well, if people don't know, I actually really like Kid Leia, and I hate Leia.
Yeah, but that scene where she's running away from them,
that was horrible.
They're like clearly stopping themselves as they run, like, oh, can't catch up to her.
It's like when you watch those clips of like, oh, we let this 80-year-old man run in for a touchdown, and they got like the other team just like whiffing on all the like tackles. And it's like, yeah, you got the touchdown. It's like, what is this for? It's like, or like Special Olympics or something. It's like, it's can't.
Yeah.
But no, Kid Leia was a genuinely really good experience. That's like the one shining thing. It's not the Vader crap, because they really fucked with that up for me. It's cool seeing Hayden and like those little moments, but like the depth they could have gone with Hayden and or him in the suit, just reflecting on like Padme going into Naboo or something. Like in the comics, the Disney Star Wars comics, they do this shit. And that's what's annoying too, is like they made this whole big thing of like EU is gone, we're doing our own continuity, everything's in line, everything is aware of each other, the games, the fucking blurbs on the back of your toy boxes, everything is continuity. And they don't actually like make them communicate like they did an Ahsoka book. I haven't read it, but then the Siege of Mandalore with Maul and whatnot, they like did different in the show. And so now the book is contradicting the film canon. And so they can't keep the shit contained for 10 years.
No.
And just stick to the comics. If you want to just be, if you're fine with Disney canon, just stick to the comics and you'll enjoy the things they play with, especially Vader comics.
Yeah.
Really dropped the ball with her direction in this show, let's be honest. Look, Obi-Wan did some stuff right. Seeing Vader dragging people through the street, snapping necks, Vader and Obi-Wan's dialogue in their interactions, and Obi-Wan's PTSD. When the show actually, focused on that stuff for more than 5 seconds before cutting to Reva, things were for the most part good.
I mean, to be honest, I hate to say it, but Kylo Ren in the sequel trilogy, it seems cooler than Vader in the Kenobi series. Like,
Vader's just his opening scene, you're like, holy fuck, you just held that bolt there, and
like,
oh my god, this is a badass.
Yeah, I mean, Vader, of course, in the OT and everything's cool. But I'm saying in the Kenobi show, he's dog shit, and Kylo is not as he's better than this shit in here.
Reva was just such an annoying character in the show, as she essentially was the character that kept jumping in front of the reasons we were there in the first place. Give us more of Vader suffering in isolation. Give us more of Obi-Wan battling with his demons and how Anakin haunts him. don't give us Reva jumping over rooftops because
Remember that
we
whole
don't-
pointless parkour scene she does? Just
Dude, the same
around.
people are going to defend that have spent their whole lives crying about the prequel choreography.
Yeah, you're right.
That is actually good and fluid, you know. And this
Yeah.
one, it's like she's doing. It's not that I'm doubting her power set as a force user to be able to, but the way they filmed and executed her stunts was like, this looks bad.
Is this
It's like,
for
I
a
mean,
weird
it's
video?
filmed beautifully. The sets look great. Coruscant looked pretty good. But it looked the stunt work looked cheap for her. So it didn't help an already bad one-dimensional angry black woman. Which is funny because that's a stereotype, and that's what she fucking is the whole show.
Yeah, literally, she's just like, "Oh, you're not going hard enough. We gotta push harder. I'm gonna kill him."
It's
just
like I'm going
chill,
to.
bitch,
It's like,
chill.
wait, you're going to like your whole plan was to right the wrongs
I'm gonna torture a child and
by
kill her.
murdering people and
I'm gonna
torturing
kill.
them.
I'm gonna kill a child to get revenge for my friends that are dead as children. I don't fucking understand.
It's like you're worse because you were the good guy and now you're accepting the bad. Like Obi-Wan being a hermit and just kind of, you know, copping out and okay, I just watched Luke and I do
Like,
my
at least he didn't join the fucking Sith and fucking kill people.
yeah, you could say he's a pacifist and he's a pussy or whatever for just, you know, not trying anymore, doubting Luke and whatnot. Just his whole worldview is just shattered right now.
He didn't go kill more Jedi.
Yeah, he's not being bad. He's not involved. It's like
Well, he's doing a long game of I'm gonna make sure Luke's involved. So
he's like, it'd be like, I'm going to beat the Nazis by working at Auschwitz
I'm
and working my way up.
I'm gonna turn in as many Jews as possible. Oh no. Not gonna be the best way to save them.
Don't care. Nobody cares. In the finale, when they kept cutting away from Obi-Wan and Vader to Reva was the most infuriating thing ever. The writers of this show essentially saw the second sister from Jedi Fallen Order and were like, well, she's a cool character. Let's redo that character in Obi-Wan, but make her less interesting, more intrusive on the story, and have her take the place of a character already perfectly poised for that position and kill him despite the fact we know he can't die because of Star Wars Rebels. Oh, and give her 2 fake out deaths as well. That'll go down well.
So stupid.
Like, honestly, if you actually want to see a good version of the Reva character, go play Jedi Fallen Order because the second sister is Reva done well, and she's amazing. Anyway, the fact that they botched Obi-Wan was just a damn crime against humanity. This show had the pillars in place to be the greatest show on Disney Plus by a mile. Yet it ended up being mid at best because of decisions that are honestly baffling to me. Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen deserved so much better than what this show offered them.
All I can think about is Anakin and Padme memes in the fucking field.
They're fighting with COVID masks. You're vaccinated. What are you doing? Stupid.
These are alpha men, Angus. Don't you see? they're the top of the line.
Hayden actually got a chance to do something because we weren't following Reva around. He crushed it. The cracked mask scene is excellent. But for me, Obi-Wan was the show that basically solidified to me that Star Wars has just lost its mind. That it's just a complete mess.
Why wasn't she jumping? She could have jumped on it. Oh, it's so
well, and the ship.
They just showed it in the show. She's jumping everywhere, and then it's like, let me just stand here.
Well, and the ship is stationary, and you'd think those blasters would be more powerful, like force, but it's like no, they're like little tiny little hand blasters. Same thing. Like,
and also, why can't she deflect a single one at the ship?
It's retarded. It's so retarded. We can't talk about the shows because it's criticize them too much.
Shows like Tales of the Jedi, something I'd normally be very interested in. I just don't care, even though I know it's good. As for Andor, again, I've enjoyed it, but it's not performing well, so we're probably not going to see more shows like it. It looks like we are genuinely destined for more theme park filmmaking with Star Wars in future. Shows with poor writing, lazy direction.
I feel like when Scorsese said his quote about like theme park roller coaster stuff, I don't think it was as justified at the time. But fucking now, it's more justified than ever. Like there's been so much. I was like, no. There's some stuff in here that's pretty good. And now it's like filled up so much more shit that it's like, okay. think you have a fucking point now.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm just like,
Wow.
God, can I get another Last Jedi? That's where we're at.
You know what? That we still talk about it in some way, shape, or form, or use it as a reference anchor point of some kind for pointing out quality or lack of quality. And it's like, yeah, you know what? I think I'd prefer to have one that I fully hate like that, or can like to argue with people. You could find arguments, even like they weren't all great arguments, but the debates were more founded than ones for She-Hulk. Like that's for fucking sure. Oh man. Oh man, we got to power through here. We're almost
30-minute episodes with 6-episode seasons. The fact Disney have to
I
start.
actually don't understand how the fuck so many shows are like, oh, we're 6 episodes. Like, I thought shows used to try to be over 10, like a little bit, like telling,
No, rookie, don't say that. I don't want.
I'm just saying. No, you're right. No.
13,
I
22 episodes.
I agree. You're right. What am I saying?
Showing
I'm thinking of shows that were good, so my bad.
On cable TV, because the viewership is that low, sets off serious alarm bells over the direction that Star Wars shows are going to go down. And it has me very worried that the downfall of Star Wars is
no one's going to notice that 10-year-old under my jacket walking.
The trench coat scene.
He couldn't have found a backpack or a duffel bag or something.
Like, it's horrible when Austin Powers is like doing it better. Like he's on
with mini
shoulders. That's great.
So that brings us to right now and the future of Star Wars. The future of Star Wars is the wild, wild west. Let's be honest. We don't know what's going to come out, what's going to be canceled. Who knows at this point? Like, remember when Patty Jenkins had that really cool promo video come out for Rogue Squadron?
No.
Yeah,
Fired.
That lasted long.
I don't remember that.
I mean, who knows what's going on with Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie?
I don't like fucking Taika.
No, here's the thing. He did the last episode of season 8 of Mando, and it was pretty good. I expected it. I didn't know what to expect with him doing the finale of a Star Wars show, and it was pretty good. I don't know how much that was like, all right, here's the thing, and you're just going to direct what we wrote. Like, that's the other thing too. Rian Johnson has done like the worst episode of Breaking Bad, because I just rewatched that show a year ago or less, and he did 2 episodes, and he did the Fly one, and the Fly one, there's a good emotional payoff eventually, but the whole thing is like, for whatever reason, Walt gets obsessed with like, oh, a contaminant, a fly is in our lab, so he spends the whole day trying to catch this fucking fly until he finally, the last minute, get like a payoff between him and Jesse for an issue. But then he also did I think spoilers, when Hank gets killed towards the end of the show, he did that episode, and that was amazing. So doing Looper, and then that, he had some goodwill coming into Star Wars, as like, this guy has done some good stuff, or interesting. He's got a direction, and yeah, so you can get anyone to direct a show written by someone else. Johnson, hey, if they're going to have him, I hope he does good shit, but you let him have creative control aside from being behind the camera, the style of it. That's where you get some problems. Taika, I don't know what he's going to do for Star Wars, but he's done good shit like Jojo Rabbit, and I think Thor Ragnarok is really good and fresh.
I think Ragnarok was fine, but I still hate his character of Korg, and a lot of the comedic moments in it I don't like. And then Love and Thunder,
Love and Thunder is not good, but
fuck no.
Like, sometimes it's hard to judge a incoming director off of their previous work, because there's so many variables and how much control they have with what they're filming, not how they're filming it. But there's something to say with some other point, but yeah, I lost it.
Okay.
What's going on with Rian Johnson's trilogy? Like, Star Wars is the very definition.
Okay. Rian Johnson. Okay. Here's the thing. This is another thing handicapping Star Wars is Patty Jenkins did Wonder Woman, and that was a hit. That almost made $1 billion for a solo female character. Woohoo. And she had a good style. and whatnot. And whether you like DC or not, most people come away liking or loving Wonder Woman, despite the third act. And then she does Wonder Woman 84, and it gets a lot of buzz because it sucks. And so they're like, you're fired. They get Game of Thrones guys who are doing Hot, and then season 8 happens, and they're like, you're fired. And then they get Colin Trevorrow, who did Jurassic World, but then his movie, I think he did Chef or some other movie, and it was crap. And they're like, you're fired. Also, he did write a script and they didn't like it, and he wasn't going to budge. So there's that too. But they have this other problem of like, they want to go with hot hands, but then those hot hands in between have a misstep, and then they just drop it, hot potato. That's what they don't have any follow through. And, like, that's the problem too with Last Jedi is like Rise of Skywalker and all the course correction is, you know what? You've introduced all these problems that half the fans are fucking angry, but you were real confident. You gave him a deal and already signed a trilogy before we even saw his movie. I think in like October they announced they were going to give him a trilogy before we even saw the Last Jedi. They were that confident about him, and then they've been stalling. They can't concede and fire him and say it's not happening because they don't want to validate us toxic man babies. But they're not doing it so far. Like,
well, they've dropped
5 years later.
They've dropped what, like 500 million each film or something. Have done less than the previous ones. So it's
they lost 700 million from Force Awakens to Last Jedi, and then they lost 300 million. Barely got to $1 billion on Rise of Skywalker, and they canceled Obi-Wan after the bombing of Solo, and they canceled Boba Fett, and that became Mandalorian and the Obi-Wan show eventually. And yeah, it's, and I assume that's probably why James Mangold did Indiana Jones 5, because he was supposed to do Boba Fett, and then Solo happened. They don't stick to anything. They just, it's why Thor: Love and Thunder was what it was, because Ragnarok was the best Thor movie,
and the way they've made Star Wars content makes it seem like that too. Like you just said, it's like the Tales of the Jedi, the Visions, the Mando, Boba Fett, Kenobi, Andor. Like, what? All these fucking different things going on that are all different from each other, but they're all happening. And it's like, what? So you're gonna make more like Andor? I don't know. We'll make this one. We'll make this other thing, and we'll make this other thing.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's like they'll take a sort of chance. Like Thor 2 is like the worst of the series for most people. Thus, at that point, and so it's like, well, let's do something different to shake things up, and then it works. And I'm like, just do more of that now. And they're never trying to stay. They're never trying to like push the envelope. It's like, oh, that worked. Keep doing it. Do it. You see it with Marvel, where it's like phase 4, phase 5, phase 6, phase 7. It's like, dude, slow the fuck down. Like, this was good because we had moments to breathe in between and to anticipate, but now you're just overloading. And Star Wars,
they're literally spamming content now.
Star Wars, there's so many avenues you can play with. If you still need to take your time though, and I feel like they're not. And it feels like none of them are communicating with each other. Just like No Way Home and Doctor Strange 2 feel completely different. As far as like, they don't feel like they're in the same world.
Yeah.
And eventually they might we're like, oh yeah, that was actually a different universe because multiverse. To try to like steer away and not stick to their own stuff. That's the problem with all this is like, as much say Ryan Johnson, what he did, it like, stick to it. You made your decision, made your bed, lie in it, keep going.
Yep.
It seems like Lucasfilm themselves have no idea what is going on with their own shows and films. It's honestly really sad that the only things I'm remotely excited for in terms of upcoming Star Wars content are the shows on Disney+. Mandalorian Season 3 should hopefully be good if it continues what Season 2 of The Mandalorian set up, which it looks like it's going to. It's just a shame they put the first 2 episodes of Mando Season 3 in Book of Boba Fett. But anyway, The Acolyte, I think, is actually going to be one of those shows that ends up being a complete and utter masterpiece that changes Star Wars forever, or it's going to end up being an absolute joke and just solidifies the downfall. Leslie Headland is, of course, writing that show, so yeah, we'll see how that goes. The fact this show is taking place in the High Republic has me relatively intrigued because it's an entirely new time period on screen. It's something that's actually straying away from the Skywalker saga. This one has a lot of potential. And if they pull it off, and that's a big if, this is the kind of show that could really halt that downfall of Star Wars. But we're operating on hopes and dreams here. There is also a...
Yeah, you agree so far, pretty much?
Yeah, I have nothing to add.
Yep, no, the deal. Oh, hey, hanging in there, Curtis. How you doing? Doing all right still? And the other viewers, hope you guys are hanging in there. We're almost through with the video. We going almost 3 hours again on a 30-minute video. You know,
that's not bad, actually.
Classic thing. Honestly, it makes sense why EFAP goes for like 10-hour streams, and it makes total fucking sense to me.
A Skeleton Crew show, which, whatever. And that Lando show, is that still happening?
A Lando show? I never heard
of that. Oh, God.
I don't know.
You'll see him fuck other robots.
Yep. Toaster, you're next.
Ahsoka is, of course, a major show coming next year. Ahsoka and The Mandalorian are probably the only things I'm genuinely looking forward to with Star Wars going forward, because Mandalorian is a proven show and Rosario Dawson has been great as Ahsoka so far. Not to mention, Dave Filoni is going to be taking full control of that show, which fills me with a lot of confidence because Dave Filoni loves Ahsoka, so you know the character is going to be treated with respect. Hayden Christensen is also supposed to appear in Ahsoka as well, which makes sense given Ahsoka and Anakin's rich backstory. So much like Mando Season 3, this one is looking promising, but then again, Obi-Wan looked promising, and yeah. So I'm semi-excited for the future of Star Wars, but at the same time, I'm already bracing for disaster. The past 5 years for Star Wars have been an absolute mess, and I am not entirely confident in where things are going. For as much crap as we give the MCU lately, at least they have a clear direction. Films planned out, ready to go when it's time.
Do they have a clear direction? That's a bold statement, sir. I'm
Ron Burgundy.
I couldn't tell you anything with their direction. The multiverse, the Loki, the Falcon show, the Eternal thing, the Black Widow, fucking what else? I can't even think of what kinds of ones are in there because they're all so random. Like,
you would think they would include Loki cameo in Doctor Strange 2. Connect that because of the multiverse.
Yeah, I thought that was an obvious one for it. I was like, that's what they're setting up, right? No, apparently not. Okay, whatever.
And it's like Loki, you can cry about
and Loki and him interacting. It's kind of funny. Like they barely had an interaction, but they
got
interacted
chemistry.
In Ragnarok. That was following for 30 minutes.
God damn. Continue. Sorry.
Yep. No, you're good. I was checking in on Curtis over here.
Yeah, no, the logos are cool. Besides Skeleton Crew, it looks
Star Wars
kitty.
Yeah.
This is just a complete and utter shit show on the future plans for the IP. Nobody knows what's going on. Kathleen Kennedy seemingly doesn't know what's going on. How can an IP...
I haven't heard, like, she's almost like a ghost as far as, like, she's around. She's definitely still in there, but, like, she doesn't make any statements or anything.
Oh, so she'll come back just like Palpatine. Don't worry.
It's like she hasn't made any crazy statements. So I'm like, I don't even, it's like, has there been footage of her around still? Is she alive? Did she not get killed a few years ago? And yeah,
really, you just gotta go back to the whole that interview where it's like, whatever she said about, it's about preserving and honoring these characters that George made.
Yeah, totally.
Be expected to run smoothly with so much uncertainty and doubt floating around. Like, just the sheer fact that we're probably not going to see Star Wars back in theaters until late 2025, and that's being optimistic, is just sad. I think it is time.
I'm fine with waiting. I'm totally fucking fine with that. I don't know.
Well, it's like, hey, every 2 or 3 years, a Star Wars? Like, man, can we go back to that idea of like, we're going to take our time and you're going to get, one every few years, or like, hey, we're going to like work on a trilogy. And then in between the wait, you got solo films to like play new areas of Star Wars that aren't so such big ramifications, you know.
That's what
I
the show should have been.
I
Kind
miss
of
that
like,
idea.
I agree. Like even with the shows, like have the movies be the main. There's stories going on, and the shows be something not as significant to the overall plot. Like the kind of like what Marvel kind of wants to do, where they have their shows and movies, and who cares if you see some of them or not. Like have them not be reliant on each other would be neat.
No, no, no. I like the idea of like with Boba Fett. It's like we're gonna watch this. You actually need to see Mando. I like it. I like being I don't like being forced to watch it, but I like them being reliant, where it's like the full enjoyment and content. So you actually need to invest in different parts, you know. So it helps their viewership, but it also makes it feel enriching because this is a saga, you know. And so it's bad when it's like, I can skip that, you know, when that's the feeling for a franchise, when like half their stuff, it's like, maybe I'll see it, probably not, but
I don't know. It'd just be annoying if it's like, oh, there's like 3 seasons or there's like 6 seasons of a thing, but you have to get to season 4 for it to get good. I'd be like,
yeah, that's the problem. Like
you're
none of
asking
us
me
would
to
be
do a
watching these
lot of
videos,
stuff.
making these videos. If things were going hunky dory, we would just be like, yeah, did you hear that one theory about like this? And oh, we
Oh,
got
you
this
have to
guy
watch
doing
this
this.
show. You have to watch this other show to know the context of this one character in this other show. Wow, but yeah, it's so shit. It's just like, no, don't want to. No.
Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy. A lot of people
She
pointing
exists still. Ah.
Well, Curtis
finger
said a
at her
good
for-
art design team. Yeah, you should watch interviews of like Disney era Doug Chang talk about working on like Mando art and whatnot, to the concepts, because he goes back to episode 1, maybe before, but episode 1 is he started making his impact, you know, like trying to draw like the Naboo ships and whatnot. It's really cool stuff, and then seeing this Mando stuff, not as in depth as like the prequels with their range, but yeah. So you got like an old guard guy from Lucas era still working there doing stuff. Is fun. I feel probably it's not as having as much fun as during Lucas era with like the free reign, because you know so much more corporate oversight.
Yeah.
all of Star Wars' problems. And whilst, yes, she has made many mistakes in her position, to say she's bad at her job is just not true. She's played a role in creating some of the best films in the history of cinema, for Christ's sake. Some of them are my favorite.
I don't know how much that can be taken as credit for her.
Well, I think he's misguided in using her whole career to justify her impact on Star Wars. Like, I think we should just talk about her role in Star Wars, leading Lucasfilm. And
Because
I
Peter
would
Jackson,
say that at she's I don't know, about 50-50 with success. Not you know, whether you're talking about just box office or like fan engagement with the shows, it's like she's got as many hits as misses. So yeah, you got a bot in the chat.
oh, boy.
Yeah, so I think we should like, how do I say this? I think relying on her whole history to try to like that's a cover for her role for like 10 years at Lucasfilm. That's a non-factor. It's like, yeah, she has a pedigree, thus justifying her involvement in creative decisions or whatever, and this is why she has a job. But I think it's longer overdue to be fired, because more so than not, fans have turned away or been jaded, or it's just like lackluster engagement and enjoyment for the bulk of the stuff, whether people like or not the products. They're middling, and there's not, you know, seeing Obi-Wan in a show and including Vader and adding to the Inquisitor lore, that should be really big shit that people talk about, with all sorts of fan theories about the future and digging into like oh, this factor of Star Wars. Like, let's learn about all the nitty gritty lore that Disney's made about the Inquisitors. No one cares. No one's interested. That was not a thing with Lucas running Star Wars and bringing Filoni in with the Clone Wars. It was so much potential and inquisitiveness by the fans. And at the start with Force Awakens, she had that. And ever since then, it's just you can count on less and less fans caring, or yeah, we watched it because it's Star Wars, but yeah, it wasn't good because of course it's Disney, not Lucas. So yeah,
Well,
it's
Well, I mean, I was more referring to, he said, oh, she had a hand in all these films here, but it's like, what specifically did she do in any of this stuff? Like in Back to the Future Part 2 or 3 or whatever up there, like what did she do? What was her contribution?
well, I think she's been a producer on a lot of these movies, so producers gotta like juggle a lot of responsibility, like being like the head person, like directors like shooting stuff and working with the writing if he's not writing himself. But the producers got to like bring those people in, worry about contracts, worrying about budgeting, making this like ship actually float while the director like steers the ship. So they're hand in hand. The producer definitely always gets less credit, but they're just if not more important for it even working in the first place to like coalesce all these moving parts. So however much she specifically, because there's probably lots of producers on these movies, yeah, no, she's definitely got a pedigree of success and contributing to huge things, but
Well, I mean, like, yeah,
I
how
don't
much
think
did
that
she
matters
contribute
now
to
for
the
Star
story
Wars.
or yeah.
It's like that's why she's in Hollywood. That's why she's got her role as Lucasfilm president. But as Lucasfilm president, she's done mostly or contributed in whatever facet and signed off on a lot of just fucking catastrophe for the potential of this franchise to carry on with the umbrella mega corporation of Disney, paying the bills for it and whatnot. She has not done a good job because whatever controversies a show or film does for the saga, it should be talked about incessantly forever in film culture. And it's not. It's like, oh yeah, there's this crappy show, or oh, they maybe it took one chance here or there, but ultimately, whatever. I'll just stick to the old Lucas era, or I'm out, or even the shill fans that pretend they just love and adore, like they don't buy in this crap. Like the merchandise is almost non-existent compared to even the Clone Wars era. And it's all reflective of like if the people cared about this, you'd see a huge Star Wars section at Walmart, at Target. You don't. You see like 2 pegs of Black Series figures, and then on the bottom there's a bunch of Baby Yoda variations of toys, and maybe some like vehicle toys, and most of it's just pulling from the original trilogy. It's a new variant of a TIE fighter, of an X-Wing, you know. Yeah, like just the merchandise alone, you see the lack of success, the lack of cultural impact that this franchise should have eternally. So no, she should be fired. She's not been good as a Star Wars president. And all the success that people do like with Mando and Boba Fett and Baby Yoda and whatnot is Filoni in the Clone Wars and Tales of the Jedi. That's all Filoni, and they're just like putting her name on it. Maybe she's there, signing checks, and she knows whoever, bring them in or has connections, but it's also Disney, so it's like what? Yeah, I agree. Like what exactly she contribute now? I think it should just be about Star Wars. Is what we're talking about with her, and it's not a good job.
Nope.
Favorite films of all time?
The chef's chicken sandwiches from Panera. The familiar made fantastic.
Oh, damn, a second ad.
Fucking ads.
As much as she is to blame for the film and shows that have been awful, she must get credit for the ones that have done well, because the door swings both ways. But in general, she just hasn't really been knocking it out of the park. And I think it's time for a change. I think it's time to step aside and let Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau take over Star Wars. Let them be to Star Wars what Kevin Feige is to Marvel. Star Wars can't keep meandering in mediocrity forever. It's already lost some of the zest that made it the biggest and most iconic franchise in cinematic history, because that's no longer the case anymore. It's been overtaken. It's been dethroned as top dog, and it is doing nothing to retake that throne. People have made a lot of jokes in recent years that the future of Star Wars is in the past, and to be honest, I'm not really seeing anything that signifies that that is not true. Yeah, we have this High Republic thing coming out, but people don't seem to care about it all that much. And I mean, anything post Rise of Skywalker is going to be met with hate because of how poorly the sequel trilogy was handled. Plus, good luck.
They could just forget about the sequels. Like, just make the next films just totally ignoring it. Just, kind of forgot about it. Just,
Well, that's the thing. They can't admit their defeat. They gotta, with Disney, it's like they made money mostly because of Force Awakens carrying on. And we're like, all right, let's see where it goes. And it's like, fuck, that sucked. And it's like, well, I guess it's ending, so let's go see that.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be admitting defeat; it'd just be not referencing the sequel trilogy.
Well, it's kind of where they're at with DC, because we are not seeing, like Black Adam's its own thing, and so far, where that character is in the world, like they included Henry Cavill Superman, and so, but because CW did like the multiverse, so that is part of DC creativity. That could, and also the Flashpoint, so like that could all be included in, reconstructing what DC is. So, we don't know if they're admitting defeat with like the Snyder shit in that era and Wonder Woman 84 and so on, Birds of Prey. So, that's another example of like they might eventually, where it's like once we like see the dust settle with what they let James Gunn and company do, we'll kind of see where that lays. But until then, yeah, and it's the same with Star Wars. It's like they're not admitting defeat. They're not saying like, yeah, we did so bad, we're just going to let's start over or whatever. They're not doing it because they had success, and also the man babies and whatnot. They can't just be like, yeah, you were right. Even if we hate you, you were right. We're starting over. And they can't do, because Carrie Fisher's dead. They killed Luke Skywalker. Han Solo's dead. Harrison Ford fucking hates Star Wars, so they can't redo it without just saying, yeah, Luke did this, and then he did a Jedi thing, and then now he's dead, and here's the next era. If they're going to restart it, they've put themselves in a corner.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, like this, you gotta think like the long term. It's like the sequel trilogy is, they made a park around the sequel trilogy crap. They did the whole the hotel around the sequel trilogy. So they put way too much into trying to capitalize on that era of their success and reconstructing everything. Yeah, it's like, it's not just a film thing. They got parks based on this and whatnot, and so they're not gonna just clean slate it and say sorry. And Rise of Skywalker is probably the best you're gonna get in any kind of sign of sorry to us fans. And they're trying to like make do with what they can with Favreau and Filoni and being this like middle spot between the trilogies. It's like, well, we don't have to touch any of that, and we're just going to play in this era. Like, and then maybe we'll go so far where none of the characters, the sequels are around. And so, yeah, I don't know, as a company, what they can do.
Yeah.
Come back after the shit they went through with their characters. And these in-between stories that we're seeing on Disney Plus aren't really helping the critique of the future of Star Wars being in the past. It is time for Star Wars to do something on the big screen that we haven't seen yet. Explore timelines well outside of the Skywalker saga. The High Republic is a good start, but we've got to be diving into the Old Republic or something very soon. If anything can save the downfall of Star Wars, the Old Republic is a damn perfect place to start. Overall, Star Wars is just in a really frustrating place right now. Fans don't know what the hell is going on. Lucasfilm doesn't know what the hell is going on. Good shows are being ignored by the masses, whilst the bad ones continue to be successful in every way except the ways that actually matter. So it seems like we're destined for more of the same. Star Wars was in such a promising position 7 years ago, but The Last Jedi undoubtedly sparked the downfall of what was once the biggest IP in cinematic history. Can it recover from its downfall? Can it clean up its own mess? Only time will tell.
Yep.
Pretty good video.
That's pretty good. It's good.
I like videos like that
point.
that, you know, definitely appeal to like Phantom Menace OGs, but without harping on the focus being the identity politics. Much as I agree with that kind of content. And it's fun, like, you know, to mention that in stream or whatever, like a good essay like that. I like when it's kind of doesn't go that hard in that direction, or kind of just stays on topic and not adding that extra baggage for its discourse.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, the new baddie got to be lurking to balance the force, he says.
Yeah, I think I might have found that video because it's a more recent upload by someone I'm subscribed to, so it popped up my home. No, it popped up when I looked up Star Wars essay, and it was newer. So I'm like, huh, and I listened to it, and yeah, we didn't mention it, but towards the beginning, he was talking about like, oh, being a fan for like 10 years or whatever, and what Disney's done. I thought possibly he would go with this whole, I've been working my ass off for 5 years as a Star Wars fan, like Harloff. There was something he said keyed that, and that's why I'm like, I don't know where he's gonna go with this, but we gotta EFAP this.
Yeah, no, he's in pretty much similar boat to us. Like we, haven't felt interested to watch Andor. We haven't felt interested to really check out too many things that they do. I'm not interested in anything they want to make at all. Like I'm just told if you watch it and you think something's good, I'll be more willing to give it a shot. Otherwise, I don't really care.
Well, yeah. Like there's one of my friends at work. He's like, oh, you see Andor? But he's more of a passive fan. It's not that he's not like a Disney shill, but like the first time we talked, Star Wars came out because he's wearing a shirt, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And he's like, yeah, I don't really like the prequels, and I thought Disney was pretty good. And I'm like, oh my god! And so I was essentially like, I don't want to talk.
My enemy.
Somehow I got stuck being around him, and then we ended up like I found out like he's got a real good depth of perception with film and whatnot, and not just I watched something and that was cool, and that's the depth of your conversation. Like he's got real things to say, but yeah, he's not like a Star Wars guy. It's just a thing like, oh, I'll watch it, that's cool. And he was like, oh, did you see Andor? But I don't see anyone that's like a hard Star Wars fan like, dude, Andor, man, you got to check it, man, this was so like that already gives me a bad feeling, because it's like however bad Obi-Wan is, we're all talking about Obi-Wan, because like we're maybe expecting Star Wars to be bad at this point, but we're like I want to see how bad it is, not enjoyably, but like besides, man, that's kind of where we're at with Star Wars. It's like, oh, how much damage will this thing do to the saga?
It's literally like watching a wreck of some kind. Like,
and I'm not hearing that. I'm not hearing that either from Andor. I'm not hearing, whoa, man, like
they dropped the ball. They fucked it up.
Yeah, like I'm not hearing any kind of Obi-Wan or Boba Fett or like Game of Thrones kind of discourse of like, how could they do this? Oh my god, that's the other thing. It's like I'm not hearing bad press, and I'm hearing like, yeah, it's a good show, but it doesn't feel like Star Wars. And I'm just like, what am I supposed to take away from that? Like that, there's no hook. There's no hook of really good or really bad. It just sounds middling for enjoyment. But now some of the things the way he presented it, I'm more interested now because you know me, like my favorite movie is Arrival, and that is a very anti-blockbuster, well-produced film with a big budget and about alien invasion essentially. And it's not cinema. It's not. It's cinema. It's not. It's not a blockbuster by any means. It takes any assumptions you would about this trope in sci-fi, and it does all the boring real world things with it that are intriguing and like real thought puzzling. And so yeah, I get that kind of vibe that might be what Andor is to some degree. And so now I'm interested. Um as like someone who likes film and likes boring films, you know, like No Country for Old Men is one of the best films ever. And most people like, oh, the bad guy got away. Like that's their conclusion. It's like, oh, it's really good besides the ending because it didn't do what every other fucking movie does.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
exactly.
yeah, how'd you feel with that video?
Yeah, that is all right. You know, I'm 50-50 on essay videos that are, you know, I think are useful or not useful. That one was pretty good and yeah, presented well for the most part. Had a lot of similar thoughts, a few things disagreed on, but yeah, for the most part, like yeah, honestly, I feel so indifferent to Star Wars. I'm just like I don't even like I know it so well, but I don't care about talking about it anymore. Like after Kenobi, I'm just like God, fucking that wiped me out, man. that that needs some recovery time.
All right.
Still feeling
Well,
the
I'm good to
damages.
go.
Yeah.
Anything you'll say to chat before we head out?
No, it's good, you know, seeing you guys again in the chat, Curtis and Tim and Rob and everybody, Grandmaster, Right Kitty,
Right, Key.
everybody. Yeah, it's cool seeing everybody again. It's been a while since I streamed. In January, you'll start seeing a lot more of me. I might do a few more videos or streams this month as well. And Angus has his channel back, but got a strike, so he can't do anything. He just got back to making content, and then now he can't make content for a couple weeks. So, oof. Coming
Yeah.
back though, he's planning to bring the beef back, as is mostly said. But yeah, with that, we're gonna head out. You guys have a good one. Good afternoon, good evening.